The billionaire's claim. She served champagne to monsters until one monster decided she belonged to him. The tray slipped from Lena Carter's fingers the exact moment the man's hand closed around her wrist, and 12 crystal flutes exploded across the marble like a gunshot in a cathedral. 200 faces turned, the orchestra kept playing, and the man smiling down at her, the senator's son with blood money in his pockets and something far worse in his eyes, leaned close enough that she could smell the bourbon on his breath when he whispered what he was going to do to her in the coat room. She couldn't scream. She couldn't run. She was going to disappear that night, and everyone in the ballroom was going to pretend they didn't see it happen. Then a second hand closed over the senator's son's throat. Before we go any further into this story, if you're enjoying what you're about to hear, please hit that like button and drop a comment, letting me know what city you're watching from right now. I genuinely love seeing how far these stories travel, and every comment helps me keep creating. Now settle in, because what happens next changes Lena's life forever. The Hotel Meridian rose 23 floors above Manhattan's Upper East Side like a monument built by men who believed the rules didn't apply to them. And on the night of October 14th, most of those men were inside it. Lena Carter stood in the service corridor behind the grand ballroom, pressing her palm flat against the wall because her hand was shaking and she did not want anyone to see it shake. She was 24 years old. She had $11 and some change in her checking account. She had a rent payment due in 6 days that she could not make, a pharmacology midterm in 48 hours that she had not studied enough for, and a pair of black pumps borrowed from her roommate that were half a size too small and had already rubbed the backs of her heels raw. She breathed in. She breathed out. She told herself, the way she told herself every shift, that 6 hours of her life for $400 cash under the table was a fair trade, and that she could survive anything for 6 hours. Carter? The voice belonged to Marco, the floor captain, a small, compact man with a mustache like a dead caterpillar and a habit of speaking to the catering staff as though they were dogs who had not yet been properly trained. He snapped his fingers twice near her face. "You with me? Table 9 is dry. Get out there." "Yes, chef." "And smile. These people paid $25,000 a plate to look at pretty girls. Give them what they paid for." Lena picked up a fresh tray. 12 flutes of Cru Grande Cuvée, $8,000 a bottle retail, pouring down the throats of people who would not remember having tasted it by morning. She balanced the tray on the flat of her left hand, the way her mother had taught her a decade ago in the diner outside Scranton before her mother got sick, before everything got hard, before Lena's whole life became a slow crawl uphill with sandbags strapped to both ankles. She pushed through the swinging door and entered the ballroom. It was the kind of room built to remind a person of her own irrelevance. Gold leaf on the ceiling, a chandelier the size of a small car, dripping thousands of hand-cut Austrian crystals, tables draped in white silk, centerpieces of white orchids flown in from Singapore that morning, a 16-piece orchestra on a raised dais playing something pretty and forgettable. And everywhere, the people, senators and their wives, hedge fund men whose names she recognized from headlines, a former Secretary of State with a glass of red wine shaking slightly in her liver-spotted hand, 2 movie stars whose marriage she had read about collapsing in the checkout aisle at Duane Reade 3 weeks ago, now pressed close in apparent reconciliation for the photographers. And between them, invisible as the water pitchers and the salt cellars, the servers. Lena moved through the tables like a ghost. Smile pleasant, not too wide. Eyes down, but not so far down that you missed an empty glass. Voice soft. Voice polite. Voice saying, "Of course, sir. Right away, sir. My pleasure, sir," to men who would not have looked at her twice on the street. She reached table 9. She began to set down the flutes. "Sweetheart?" The voice was male, young, and wet at the edges in the particular way that told her its owner had been drinking since lunch. She did not look up. Looking up was an invitation, and she had learned not to issue invitations. She set down the 3rd flute. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm talking to you." Something in the voice made the back of her neck go cold. Not the drunkenness. She'd served drunks before. It was the confidence, the specific frictionless confidence of a man who had never once in his life had a woman tell him no and mean it. She lifted her eyes. He was maybe 30, maybe a well-preserved 35. Handsome in the expensive way that rich men manage to stay handsome. Good teeth, good skin, the haircut of someone who paid $200 to have it cut every 3 weeks. Navy tuxedo. a watch on his wrist that she recognized from a magazine as costing more than her mother's entire hospital bill. He was looking at her the way a man looks at something in a display case. "There she is," he said, and he smiled. "Can I help you, sir? You can start by telling me your name." "I'm not supposed to. Your name, sweetheart. Don't be shy." From across the table, a woman in a silver gown snorted softly and kept talking to the man beside her. Nobody was going to help her. Lena understood this the way a small animal understands the shadow of a hawk. "Lena," she said. "Lena!" He rolled it on his tongue like he was tasting it. "That's pretty. That's a pretty name. You know who I am, Lena?" "No, sir." "No," he laughed. "Of course you don't. Why would you? Sit down and have a drink with me." "I'm working, sir." "I'll tell Marco you're on a break." He reached out, slow, and wrapped his fingers around her wrist. His grip was loose. It was also not something she could pull out of. "I'll tip him $1,000. He won't mind. Sit down, Lena." "Sir, please." "Please what?" "Please let go of my wrist." He did not let go of her wrist. He smiled more widely. The smile did not reach his eyes, and she understood suddenly and completely that this was a man who enjoyed being told no, because being told no was only ever a prelude to the part he actually wanted, which was the part where the no stopped mattering. "You know what I like about you, Lena," he said. "I like that you're scared. Most of the girls they hire for these things, they get this dead look. Like they've already quit. You're still in there. I can see you. That's nice. That's real nice." Her tray tilted. She felt it before she saw it. The weight shifting on her unsteady left hand. The pull of gravity on all those tall, full glasses. And she tried to correct and could not correct because her right wrist was still held. And then it was all falling. All of it. The flutes and the ice and the $8,000 a bottle champagne hitting the marble in a sound like a small bomb, and then splintering outward in a spray of glass and gold. The orchestra kept playing. A woman near the bar gasped and laughed. A high, bright trill of a laugh. The kind of laugh rich people make when a poor person does something stupid. Lena stood frozen. Her feet were wet. Champagne was soaking into the ruined stockings she had spent an hour mending the night before. A shard of crystal had opened a small cut along the side of her ankle, and a thin line of blood was crawling down into the arch of her shoe. The senator's son had not let go of her wrist. He was laughing. "Oh, honey," he said. "Oh, that's going to come out of your check, isn't it? That's a bad one, a real bad one. You know what? Why don't you come with me? I can help you out with that. I can make it real easy for you. Come on." He was standing up now, still gripping her. "Let's go somewhere we can talk." "I can't." "I know a coat room on the second floor, nice and quiet. I'll have a word with your manager, get you out of trouble. That's what I'm going to do, Lena. I'm going to help you." And he was pulling her now, not hard enough to cause a scene, just a steady, insistent pressure. And she was moving with him because her feet were moving on their own, because he had that grip and that smile, and the whole room was turning its face politely away. She thought, very calmly, "I am about to disappear." She thought, "Nobody here is going to help me." She thought, "I'm going to be a story." Marco tells his friends at the bar next week. "Did you hear about that girl? The dumb one. The one who spilled the Krug. Dumb kid." And then a hand settled on the senator's son's shoulder. It was not a hard hand. It didn't need to be. It was just a hand, long-fingered and pale, with a single unornamented platinum band on the smallest finger, and it rested on the navy tuxedo shoulder, the way a cat rests a paw on a mouse. Everything at table 9 went quiet. Lena felt it before she heard it. A drop in temperature. A small folding of the room, the way a room folds when somebody important walks into it. And she did not know yet who was standing behind her, only that the woman in the silver gown had gone very pale and had set down her wineglass with a tiny click. "Miles?" said a voice. It was a low voice. It was not loud. It had the particular quality of a voice that had never in its adult life needed to be loud in order to be heard. "Miles," the voice said again. "Let go of the girl." The senator's son, Miles, apparently, did not immediately turn. He said without looking, "This doesn't concern you." "It does now." "Walk away, Adrian. Let go of the girl." "I said walk away." There was a silence of perhaps 2 seconds. Then the hand on the shoulder shifted and the long, pale fingers closed, very precisely, around the side of Miles's neck, just below the jaw, in the soft hollow where the carotid runs. and Lena watched Miles's entire face go white. His mouth opened. No sound came out. His grip on her wrist loosened and dropped away. Let go of the girl, Miles. Jesus. Already have. Now you. Miles let go. His hand fell to his side. He was breathing through his nose in short, shallow breaths, and his pupils were blown wide the way a person's pupils go when a predator has come close to him in the dark. Lena stumbled back a step, 2 steps. Her wrist was throbbing. There was a red mark on it in the perfect shape of 4 fingers. She finally looked at the man who had spoken. He was tall, not enormous, but tall enough that she had to tilt her chin to meet his eyes. And she met them, and then she looked away fast because they were not the kind of eyes a person looked at casually. They were very dark, almost black, set above cheekbones that looked like they had been cut by somebody who had been angry at the time. He was maybe 34, 35. Black tuxedo. No cummerbund. No jewelry except the platinum band. His hair was dark and slightly longer than it should have been for a room like this, and he wore it pushed back from a sharp widow's peak. He was not handsome in the way Miles was handsome. He was handsome in the way certain knives are handsome, the kind where the beauty of the thing is inseparable from what it does. Apologize to her, he said to Miles. Adrian, come on. Apologize to her, Miles, or I am going to ask you twice, and you and I both know what happens the second time. Miles swallowed. His throat bobbed. He turned to Lena. I'm sorry, he said. His voice was flat. I'm sorry, I was out of line. Good. The dark-eyed man took his hand off Miles's neck. Now sit down. Drink water. Don't speak to her again tonight. Don't look at her. When this party is over, you're going home, and in the morning, we're going to have a conversation about how you address my companions. You're, my companion. Miles's eyes flickered to Lena. Something passed across his face. Rage, humiliation, the naked frustration of a spoiled child whose toy has been taken away. But he did not speak. He sat down. He picked up his own glass with hands that trembled slightly, and he drank. The dark-eyed man turned to Lena. He did not touch her. She appreciated that afterward, when she was able to think at all. He simply inclined his head slightly and said, in that same low voice, Come with me, please. Just for a moment. I have to clean. Someone else is going to clean that up. Come with me. I don't know you. No, you don't. A flicker in his eyes, which might have been something like humor and might have been something else entirely. My name is Adrian DeLuca. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be the person walking you out of this room. After 10 minutes, if you want to go home and never see me again, I will drive you home myself and you will never see me again. Is that acceptable? She did not answer. She was staring at his hands. Miss Carter, she started. How do you know my... You have a name tag. She looked down. She did in fact have a name tag, pinned crookedly to the black vest of her uniform. She had forgotten she had a name tag. She had forgotten, for a full 30 seconds, that she was wearing anything at all. Come on, he said, quieter now. Everyone is watching. Let's get out of the room. She went with him. She would think later about the exact moment her body decided to go with him, and she would not be able to locate it. There had been no decision. There had just been the offer of an exit, and a voice that was not Miles's voice, and the fact that her legs had started moving in the direction he was moving, and the whole room parting in front of him like he was something heavy going through water. He did not take her arm. He walked half a step ahead of her and to her right, and he did not once look back to check that she was following, because he already knew she was following, and she understood even in that moment that there was something about that assumption that she ought to be angry about. She was not yet angry about it. She was logging it. She was a medical student. She was good at logging things for later. They left the ballroom. They crossed the gilded corridor with its carved mirrors and its marble caryatids. He pushed open a door marked private in discreet brass letters, and then they were in a smaller room, some kind of lounge, leather chairs, a low fire burning in a marble hearth, absolutely empty of other people. He closed the door behind them. He did not lock it. She noticed that. She was pretty sure he wanted her to notice that. Sit down if you want to, he said. Or don't. Your wrist is bleeding. It's not my wrist, it's my ankle. Both, actually. Let me see. No. He stopped. He looked at her. And for the first time since the ballroom, the strange composed mask of him cracked slightly. and she saw something underneath it that was not predatory exactly, and not kind exactly, but was at least interested. "No?" he said. "No, you don't touch me. I don't know you." "Fair enough." He held up his hands, palms out, and took a step back. "There's a first aid kit in the desk, bottom drawer. You can take care of it yourself. I'll sit over here." He sat in the leather chair farthest from her. He crossed one long leg over the other and rested his hands loose on the arms of the chair, and he watched her with the mild patience of a man who was not accustomed to waiting but was prepared to wait. Lena did not move. "I'm not going to hurt you, Miss Carter. People who aren't going to hurt you don't usually have to say it." A pause. Then, unexpectedly, a short, quiet laugh. It was not a cruel laugh. It surprised her. "That's true," he said. "That's an entirely fair point. Who are you?" "I told you, Adrian DeLuca." "That's a name. I'm asking you who you are." He tilted his head. "I own things," he said. "I move things. Some of them are legal, some of them are not. The people in that ballroom know which ones are which is why they did what you saw them do when I put my hand on Miles's neck. Miles's father is the junior senator from Connecticut. Miles himself is 29 years old and has been credibly accused of assaulting 4 women in the last 6 years, all of whom received quiet settlements and signed non-disclosure agreements, 2 of whom later attempted suicide. Tonight, he was going to be the 5th. I intervened because I don't like him, and I don't like his father, and I have been looking for a reason to put a public hand on him for 3 years. You gave me one. Thank you." Lena stared at him. "You're lying," she said. "About him? About 4 women?" "I'm not lying." "How do you know that?" "I know a lot of things, Miss Carter. That's not an answer." "No, it isn't." He shifted slightly in the chair. "I understand that you don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either. May I tell you what I'd like to do?" "Go ahead." "I'd like to have someone I employ drive you home. They will drive you to your apartment. They will not get out of the car. They will wait at the curb until you are inside, and then they will leave. Tomorrow morning, I would like to send you a check. No. For the amount of tonight's earnings, plus the cost of the uniform that is now ruined, plus a reasonable sum to compensate you for being assaulted on my behalf." "I wasn't assaulted on your behalf. I was assaulted because Miles is a piece of... on my behalf in the sense that you were in a room where I should have noticed him noticing you, and I didn't notice in time. That's on me. Let me make it right. I don't want your money." "All right. I mean it." "I hear you. I'm not a charity case. I'm not offering charity, Miss Carter. I'm offering restitution. There's a difference. And for what it's worth..." He paused. His dark eyes moved over her face with a slow, deliberate attention that she did not know what to do with. "For what it's worth, in the 10 minutes I have known you, you have been the least charity case I have encountered in a very long time." She did not know what to say to that. She sat down, not near him, on the small embroidered bench near the fireplace. Her ankle was bleeding into her shoe in a slow, steady way, and she had begun to feel faintly lightheaded, the particular kind of lightheaded that comes from adrenaline leaving the bloodstream all at once. "I need a minute," she said. "Take as many as you want." She put her head in her hands. For a while, neither of them spoke. The fire ticked. Somewhere very far away, through walls and doors, and the distance of the corridor, the orchestra was playing Cole Porter. She could just barely hear it, in the still of the night. Her mother had liked that song. "My mother died 6 months ago," she said. She did not know why she was saying it. She said it anyway. "Pancreatic cancer. She held out for 18 months on a 2-month prognosis. Stubborn. Anyway, the medical bills. I don't have health insurance, and I'm in my 3rd year of medical school, and I work 3 jobs, and one of those jobs is the one I just lost because that was $8,000 of champagne on the floor, and they're going to take it out of my wages for the next 6 months, which means I can't pay rent this month, and I don't really know what I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I think I'm in shock." "You might be." "I'm sorry. I'll be quiet now. Please don't." She looked up at him. He had not moved. He was still in the chair. His hands were still loose on the arms of it. But something in the set of his face had changed, very slightly, and she got the impression of a man who was, for some reason, listening to her with the same attention he had just used to assess Miles's throat. "Keep talking," he said. "Please." "Why?" Because in about 20 minutes, a man named Solomon is going to knock on that door, and he is going to drive you home. And when you step out of that car tonight, you are very probably never going to see me again. And if you do see me again, it will be because you have chosen to, not because I have imposed myself. So this may be the only conversation we ever have. And I would like to hear you talk, Miss Carter, because in my line of work, I very rarely get to listen to someone who is not either afraid of me or trying to use me, and you are doing neither, and it is extraordinary. Tom D. Oui. I'm afraid of you. Are you? She considered this. The honest answer surprised her. A little, she said. Not the way I was afraid of him. What's the difference? I don't know yet. He nodded once, slowly, as if she had given him an answer he found acceptable. Tell me about medical school, he said. What year? Third? Specialty? Emergency medicine. Maybe trauma. I haven't decided. Why? Why ER or why trauma? Why medicine at all? She laughed. It was a tired laugh. Nobody's ever asked me that who actually wanted an answer. They usually just want me to say something noble. I don't want you to say something noble. I want you to tell me the truth. She thought for a moment. My mother was a waitress for 29 years, she said. She had a lump in her abdomen for about 2 years before she told anybody. She didn't tell anybody because she didn't have insurance, and because the one time she went to the ER, when I was 11, the doctor talked to her like she was stupid, asked her if she understood English. She understood English. She'd been speaking it her whole life. She was from Scranton. Anyway, by the time she finally went in, it was stage 4, and it was everywhere. And I sat in that hospital for 18 months, and I watched dozens of doctors, and maybe 3 of them talked to her like she was a person. The rest of them talked to her like she was a chart. I decided I was going to be a doctor who talked to her like she was a person. That's why. Adrian DeLuca looked at her for a long time. That is an extremely good reason, he said finally. Thanks. Miss Carter. Lena. Lena. He said it carefully. He said it the way you say a word in a language you're still learning. I would like to make you an offer. You don't have to accept it. You can walk out of this room in 5 minutes and never think of me again, and that will be a perfectly fine outcome. But I want to make the offer anyway, because I suspect you won't let me do it in any simpler way. What? Your tuition and your living expenses. Paid. For the remainder of medical school. Residency included if you want. No strings, no conditions, no... He raised one hand slightly, and the platinum band on his smallest finger caught the firelight. No expectations of any kind, not of gratitude, not of company, not of anything. She stared at him. That's insane, she said. It's not insane. It's a small amount of money to me and a life-changing amount to you. Call it tax deductible. You want me to believe that a man I just met who choked a senator's son at a gala wants to pay for my medical school out of the goodness of his heart, with no conditions. I didn't say the goodness of my heart. I don't have a lot of that. Then what? He looked at her. He looked at her for a long time. I watched you, he said slowly, walk across that ballroom with a tray of champagne. I've been in that room 40 times in the last decade. I have watched maybe 400 women walk across it carrying trays. I didn't notice any of them. I noticed you. Why? I don't know. You don't know? I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. That's a separate question from the medical school, which I would like to pay for whether or not I ever see you again. Those two things are unrelated. I want that to be clear. She looked at the fire. She thought about the $11 in her checking account. She thought about the rent. She thought about Ms. Petrov on the 4th floor, who had a cough she wouldn't get looked at because she didn't have papers, and was afraid of anything that looked like paperwork, and who had given Lena a jar of homemade jam last Tuesday and called her doctor even though Lena wasn't one yet. She thought about her mother, in the bed at Lehigh Valley, holding her hand on the last night. Baby, you finish it, whatever it costs. You finish it. She thought about the fact that she was sitting in a private room in the Hotel Meridian with a man who had just told her he was a criminal, and that every instinct she had ever developed as a woman in the world was telling her to stand up and walk out and never look back. And then she thought about something her mother had said once, in the diner, when Lena was 9. A man had come in and stiffed her mother on a $60 check, and her mother had watched him drive away in a Cadillac, and she had said, mostly to herself, "Baby, the devil comes in a lot of suits. Sometimes he comes to hurt you, and sometimes he comes to help you, and mostly you can't tell which until it's already over." Lena lifted her eyes. "No," she said. "No? No. I don't want your money. I don't want your help. I don't know what you are, Mr. DeLuca, but whatever it is, I don't want to owe you anything. Not $1, not one favor, not one phone call I can't afford to miss." Something moved in his face. It was not disappointment exactly. It was something more complicated than that. It was something that looked almost like relief. "All right," he said. "All right? All right, Lena. That's your answer. I respect it." "You respect it." "I do." Just like that. Just like that. He stood up. He crossed the room, not to her, but to the door, and he opened it and said something quiet to someone in the corridor. Then he turned back. "Solomon will drive you home," he said. "It's a company car. There's a first aid kit in the back seat. Use it for your ankle, please. I'd like not to think of you bleeding all the way to wherever you live." "I can take the subway." "You can, but your shoes are ruined and your stockings are ruined and you're going to be in shock in about 15 minutes and the subway at midnight is not where I want you to be when that happens. Solomon will drive you. As a favor to me, not to you. Consider it something I'm asking of you, not something I'm giving you." She considered that framing. "All right," she said. "Thank you." "I'm not thanking you." "I know you're not. I'm thanking you." A knock at the door. A man stepped in, tall, older, gray at the temples, with the flat, unreadable face of a person who had seen a great many things and was paid not to react to any of them. This was Solomon, presumably. "Miss Carter is going home," Adrian said. "Please take her wherever she would like to go. Please do not ask her any questions. Please do not offer her any information about me. When she gets out of the car, please make sure she is inside her building before you leave, and then come back here." "Yes, sir." "Lena." She looked at him. "One last thing," he said, "and I'm telling you this because it is true, not because I want anything from it. Miles saw you tonight. Miles's people saw you tonight. Miles is the kind of man who does not handle public humiliation well, and he was publicly humiliated tonight, and I am—" He paused. "I am aware that by intervening, I may have placed you in a different kind of danger than the one I pulled you out of. I don't think I did. Miles is a coward, and cowards don't usually come back. But if at any point in the next few weeks you feel watched, or if anything at all happens that feels wrong to you, I want you to call this number." He took a card from his inside jacket pocket. He wrote something on the back of it with a silver pen. He held it out to her. She did not take it. He set it on the mantel. "I'm not going to follow you," he said. "I'm not going to contact you. I'm not going to appear in your life unless you invite me to. That card is for you. Use it or don't. Throw it in the trash when you get home. That's entirely your choice." "Why are you doing this?" "I told you. I don't know yet. That's a terrible answer." "I know." She stood up. Her ankle hurt, her wrist hurt, her feet hurt. She was going to have to walk across the lobby of the Hotel Meridian with blood in her shoe, and she was going to have to explain to Marco in the morning why she had left in the middle of her shift, and she was going to have to find $400 for rent in the next 6 days, and none of that had changed. But something had changed. She could feel it. The room had gone still around her, and she had the strange, distinct feeling that she was standing in a doorway, and that on one side of the doorway was the life she had been living up until the moment Miles's hand had closed around her wrist, and on the other side was something else entirely, something she could not yet see the shape of, something that might be terrible and might be wonderful and would almost certainly be both. She walked to the mantel. She picked up the card. She did not look at it. She put it in the pocket of her black work vest, and she felt the small, stiff shape of it against her ribs, and she nodded once to Adrian DeLuca without meeting his eyes, and she followed Solomon out of the room. At the door she stopped. She did not turn around. She said over her shoulder, "The answer is still no. About school. About anything. I want you to know that. I heard you the first time. I just want you to know." "I know." She walked out. Solomon drove her home. He did not speak to her. The car was a black Mercedes with leather that smelled faintly of cigar smoke and something green and expensive, and she sat in the back with a gauze pad pressed against her ankle and watched the lights of Manhattan slide past the window in long gold streaks. At 112th and Amsterdam, he pulled to the curb. He waited, the engine idling, while she climbed the 4 flights to her apartment and let herself in and turned on the light inside and waved weakly at the window. Only then did he drive away. She sat on her bed in the dark with her shoes still on. She took the card out of her pocket. The front of it was nothing. Cream-colored stock, thick, expensive. A phone number in small black type. No name, no company, no title. On the back, in quick, confident handwriting, he had written, "For any reason, or none at all." A. She sat with it in her lap for a long time. Outside the window, a siren went past, and then another. A couple was arguing in the apartment below hers, the same argument they had been having for months, about money, about somebody's mother, about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Her radiator clanked. Her phone, plugged in beside the bed, buzzed once with a text from her roommate. "You alive?" She did not answer it. She looked at the card. She thought about Miles's hand on her wrist. She thought about the hand that had closed over Miles's throat. She thought about her mother, telling her she couldn't always tell the difference between the kind of devil who came to hurt you and the kind who came to help you. She stood up. She crossed to the kitchenette. She opened the drawer where she kept her takeout menus and her unopened bills. And she slid the card in, face down, between a Chinese menu and a third notice from her student loan servicer. She closed the drawer. She told herself she was going to throw it away in the morning. She knew, even as she told herself that she wasn't. Somewhere on the other side of the park, in a private room on the 23rd floor of the Hotel Meridian, a man in a black tuxedo was standing at a window with a glass of something dark in his hand, looking out at the lights of the city he half owned and half ran, and thinking about a waitress with blood on her stockings who had looked him in the eye and said no to him twice. He had not been told no in a very long time. He found to his considerable surprise that he could not stop smiling. She did not throw the card away in the morning. She told herself she was going to. She woke up at 5:45 the way she always woke up, to the sound of the garbage trucks coming down Amsterdam, and she lay in bed for a full 10 minutes with her eyes closed, telling herself that the whole previous night had been some kind of fever dream. Miles and the champagne and the hand on Miles's throat and the leather chair and the card with the handwriting on the back. None of it had actually happened. She had been on her feet for 11 hours, and she had been hungry, and she had imagined it. That was the story she was going to go with. Then she sat up and her ankle throbbed, and she looked down and saw the crust of dried blood on the inside of her calf, and she knew that she had not imagined any of it. She limped to the bathroom. She washed the cut. It was small, barely more than a scrape, but it had bled enough to stain. She bandaged it with a strip of gauze left over from a rotation she'd done the summer before. She looked at herself in the mirror above the sink, at her own pale face and the dark circles under her eyes, and the mark on her wrist that had bloomed overnight into a ring of yellowish bruise, and she said out loud, "You are not going to call him. You are not going to think about him. You are going to work, and you are going to study, and you are going to figure out the rent, and that man is going to disappear back into whatever hole he came out of, and you are never going to see him again." She said it firmly, the way a mother says a thing to a child who is likely to misbehave. Then she went to the kitchenette and opened the drawer and looked at the cream-colored card for a long time before she closed the drawer again. The rest of the week did not cooperate with her plan to forget him. Marco called her at 11 in the morning to tell her she was fired. He didn't use the word fired. He used the phrase "not going to be on the schedule for a while," which was the same thing dressed up in hospitality language, and he said it with a weird false cheer that made her stomach turn. She understood, from the things he did not say, that someone had spoken to him. Someone with weight. Someone who had told him not to make a fuss about the champagne. He did not ask her to pay for the broken bottles. He did not mention the broken bottles at all. He just told her that the agency would be in touch about other gigs, which she knew meant nothing because the agency did not call people who had been scrubbed off Marco's list. She hung up the phone and she sat on her bed and she calculated, on the back of a pharmacology flashcard, what $400 of rent looked like when you had subtracted $400 of rent from $11.43. It looked like negative $388.57. It looked like eviction. Her roommate Priya came home at 2 that afternoon, dropped her tote bag and took one look at Lena's face. "Okay," Priya said. What happened? Nothing. Lena, I lost the gig. The Meridian gig? Yeah. Okay, how bad? Pretty bad. Priya sat down on the bed next to her. Priya was in her second year of public health at Columbia, on a full ride, which meant her financial situation was better than Lena's, but not by a margin that anybody would describe as comfortable. She was 23 and had a mother in Mumbai who called her every Sunday at 6 a.m., and a father who had died the year she started college, and a fierce, competent way about her that Lena had loved from the day they'd met at orientation. We'll figure it out, Priya said. I'm going to move out. You shouldn't have to. Shut up. Priya? Shut up, Carter. We're going to figure it out. Do you want tea? Yeah. Okay. I'll make tea. You sit there. Priya made tea. Lena sat there. And at some point during the making of the tea, Lena's eyes drifted of their own accord toward the drawer where she had put the card, and she felt again that strange pressure in her chest, that sense of a doorway, that sense of a thing she could still reach for if she wanted to reach for it. She did not reach for it. She made it 3 days. On the third day, which was a Tuesday, she was walking home from the 116th Street subway station at 9:30 at night after a 12-hour rotation in the free clinic, carrying a plastic bag with a $2 bag of rice and a can of black beans and a bunch of wilted cilantro she had bought for 50 cents off the bruised rack. And she was turning onto her block when she realized there was a black Mercedes parked across the street from her building. It was not Solomon's Mercedes. She was sure of that. This one had different plates and a subtly different trim, but it was a black Mercedes, and the windows were tinted, and it was parked on a block where nobody parked a car worth more than $9,000, and she felt her whole body go cold. She stopped walking. The car did not move. She stood on the sidewalk for 10 seconds, maybe 15, and she thought about Miles, about the look he had given her across the table after Adrian had lifted his hand off his neck, about the phrase "cowards don't usually come back," and she thought about how confident Adrian had sounded when he'd said it, and how much less confident it sounded now when she was standing on a sidewalk in the dark alone. Then the driver's side door opened. The man who stepped out was not Miles. It was not anyone she recognized. He was maybe 50, heavy in the shoulders, with the kind of build that had been an athlete's 30 years ago, and was now just a kind of density. He held up both hands, palms out, the way Adrian had held them up in the lounge. "Miss Carter," he said. His voice was rough and not unkind. "Sorry. I know how this looks. I'm supposed to give you this." He held out an envelope. Lena did not move. "Who are you?" "My name's Bobby Mancuso. I work for Mr. DeLuca. He told me to tell you that if you don't want to take this, I'm supposed to leave it on your stoop and drive away, and you can do whatever you want with it. He specifically told me not to come anywhere near you. I'm sorry. I overstepped. I'll put it on the stoop." "Wait." He stopped. "What is it?" "He didn't tell me." "You didn't look?" "Ma'am, I have worked for Mr. DeLuca for 19 years. I do not open his envelopes." Something about the way he said it, the particular formal seriousness of it, made her almost laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was real. Because the world Bobby Mancuso lived in was a world in which a man like Adrian DeLuca could hand him an envelope and know with absolute certainty that it would arrive at its destination unopened. "Put it on the stoop," she said. "Yes, ma'am." He walked to her stoop. He laid the envelope on the top step, weighted it with a small, smooth river stone he took out of his coat pocket, the way a person might weight down a letter on a desk in a breeze. Then he walked back to the Mercedes, got in, and drove away. He did not look back. She stood on the sidewalk until the taillights turned the corner. Then she went up the steps and picked up the envelope. Inside there was no letter, no note, no card. Just a cashier's check made out to Lena J. Carter for $4,000. On the memo line, in the same quick, confident handwriting she recognized from the back of the card, there were 3 words. Not a string. She stood in the stairwell and she looked at the check, and she felt something very strange move through her, something that was not quite anger and not quite gratitude and not quite fear. And she was standing there for so long that her upstairs neighbor, Mrs. Gutierrez, came down the stairs behind her and said, "Mija, you okay?" "Yes," Lena said. "I'm fine. I'm sorry. I'll move." "You don't look fine." "I'm fine, Mrs. Gutierrez." She made it to her door. She got inside. She sat on her bed in her coat with the check in her hands, and she looked at it for a long time. $4,000. Rent for 3 months. Groceries. The overdue electric bill. The crown her dentist had told her she needed last spring and that she had been drinking on the other side of her mouth for 6 months to avoid. $4,000 was not life-changing money. It was life-continuing money. It was the difference between drowning and not drowning. He had known that, she thought. He had known exactly how much she needed, and he had sent not $1 more than that, not a string. She put the check on the nightstand. She stared at the ceiling. She took out her phone and she looked at the phone number on the card, which she had already, she realized now, with a small prick of shame, transferred into her contacts 3 days earlier, under the single letter A. She did not call him. She typed out, with her thumb, the words, "I can't take this," and then she stared at the words for a minute, and then she deleted them. She typed, "Thank you," and deleted that. She typed, "Why are you doing this?" and stared at that for a long time, and finally, slowly, she hit send. His reply came back in under a minute. "I told you, I don't know yet." She stared at the message. She wrote, "That's still a terrible answer. Yes, I'm going to cash the check." "Good. That doesn't mean anything. Understood. I mean it." "I know you mean it, Lena. Get some sleep." She did not get some sleep. She lay awake until almost 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, and she did not think about the money, and she did not think about the rent. She thought about his handwriting. She thought about the specific economy of 3 words on a memo line. She thought about the way he had said her first name in the lounge, carefully, like a word in a language he was learning. The next time she saw him was 9 days later, and it was not by accident. She was in the 3rd floor reading room of the medical library, where she had been since 7 a.m., trying to beat pharmacology into her head by brute force. It was around 3 in the afternoon. She had eaten a granola bar at noon. Her eyes were burning. She had been rereading the same paragraph about beta blockers for 20 minutes and had not absorbed a single word of it. Her phone buzzed. "Are you free for coffee?" She looked at the message. She looked at the clock. She looked at the pharmacology textbook. "No," she wrote. A pause. Then, "Are you free for coffee when you lie to me?" She almost laughed out loud in the library. She covered her mouth. A woman at the next table glared at her. "How did you know I'm in the library?" I didn't. You just told me." She stared at the message. "That's creepy." "Yes. You could have just asked where I am. I did. Are you free in 20 minutes? There's a place on 120th called Joe's. I'll be outside it." What if I said no? Then I would sit outside Joe's for 20 minutes, and then I would get in my car and go back to my office, and I would not bother you again this week. She looked at the textbook. She looked at the message. She sat for a full minute and a half, during which time she told herself with great seriousness that she was not going to go, that going was idiotic, that meeting a man like Adrian DeLuca for coffee in the middle of the afternoon when she had a pharmacology exam in 5 days was exactly the kind of decision that ruined the lives of promising young women in the kind of novels her mother had read. And then she closed the textbook and she put it in her bag and she went. Joe's was a diner, not a coffee shop. An actual diner with a linoleum counter and a revolving pie case and a handwritten sign in the window that said, "Breakfast all day." It was not the kind of place she had expected him to choose. That was the first thing she noted. The second thing she noted was that he was not outside. He was inside in a booth by the window, and he was not wearing a black tuxedo. He was wearing a dark gray sweater over a white-collared shirt, with the cuffs unbuttoned and pushed up to his elbows, and he had a cup of coffee in front of him and a paperback book face down on the table, and when she pushed open the door, he looked up and she saw in his face a thing that surprised her, which was the small, unguarded flicker of a man who had not been entirely sure she would come. She sat down across from him. "I'm not staying long," she said. "Okay. I have an exam on Monday." "Okay. I only came because I wanted to say thank you in person, and I didn't want to say it over text, because saying it over text makes it feel like a contract. Okay? Stop saying okay." "Sorry." "Okay." She stared at him. He stared at her. And then, despite herself, she laughed. A small, helpless laugh. It came out of her before she could stop it. He watched her laugh, and something in his face softened in a way she had not seen before, and he said, "You want coffee?" "Yes." "You want food?" "I can't." "Lana." "What?" Let me buy you a grilled cheese, please. It's $4. It's not an entanglement. It's a grilled cheese. She was hungry. She had been hungry for about 18 hours. The smell of bacon and griddle grease had hit her the moment she walked in, and her body had responded the way her body always responded to the smell of food when she hadn't had enough of it, which was with a small involuntary flare of want. Fine, she said. Grilled cheese with tomato and fries. With tomato and fries coming up? He signaled the waitress. He ordered with the easy courtesy of a man who had worked in a kitchen at some point in his life, she thought, or at least had spent enough time in diners to have absorbed the correct manners for one. He asked the waitress how her daughter's surgery had gone. The waitress told him it had gone well, and thank you for asking, Mr. D. She called him Mr. D, not Mr. DeLuca. Mr. D, the way a person calls a regular. He caught Lena watching and said, I come here sometimes. Here. Yeah. You come to a diner on 120th. The coffee is bad and the pie is good and nobody asks me anything. Yes. I come here. Is that suspicious? Everything about you is suspicious. That's fair. The waitress brought her coffee. Lena poured cream into it and stirred it and did not look at him. The check, she said. Yes. Was it real money? Yes. Was it... She hesitated. Was it money that came from what? From what you do. He looked at her for a moment. Then he said, Lena, any dollar I have ever spent or ever will spend came from what I do. I do not keep a separate account of clean dollars for people I want to like me. If that is a problem for you, I understand, and I would want you to give me the check back, and we would shake hands and you would go home. But I'm not going to lie to you about where my money comes from. I don't lie to you. That's the only rule I have about you, and it's a rule I made for myself, not for you. But She did not know what to say to that. She took a sip of coffee. It was bad, exactly as he had said. She drank it anyway. What do you do? She said. Specifically, I move goods and I move money. I arbitrate disputes in an industry that cannot use lawyers. I own several legitimate businesses that use money that did not originate in legitimate ways. I employ about 60 people directly and many more indirectly. I do not traffic in people. I do not traffic in anything that is injected or smoked. I have, in my life, personally hurt people who were trying to hurt me or mine, and I have ordered people hurt when I judged it necessary, and I have never once hurt or ordered the hurting of someone who was not themselves operating in the world I operate in. I understand that that last sentence is the kind of sentence a man says to make himself sound better than he is, and I am not telling it to you to sound better. I am telling it to you because you asked. Lena watched his hands while he talked. They were still. They rested around the coffee cup the way they had rested on the arms of the chair in the lounge, with a kind of absolute physical economy. He did not fidget. He did not drum his fingers. He did not do any of the small nervous things that men do when they are lying to a woman. Okay, she said, finally. Okay? Okay, I heard you. I'm not saying okay to any of it. I'm saying I heard you. Fair. The waitress brought her grilled cheese. Lena ate it. She ate all of it, including the fries, and she was aware, in a distant, horrified way, that she was eating like a person who had not eaten properly in weeks. And she was aware that he saw her eating like that. And she was aware that he was deliberately not looking at her while she did, which was somehow worse than if he had stared. When she had finished, he said without looking up, You don't eat enough. I eat fine. You don't. That's okay. I don't need you to pretend. I would like you to eat when we meet. That's something I would like. You don't have to agree to it. You're going to meet me again. I would like to. Yes. She put down her napkin. Adrian? It was the first time she had said his name. She saw him register it. Something in his shoulders shifted, very slightly, the way a man's shoulders shift when a door opens behind him that he has been listening for. Yes. What is this? I don't know yet. Stop saying that. It's still the honest answer. Then give me a dishonest one. Give me a guess. Give me a theory. Something. He looked at her. He looked at her for a long time, and when he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than it had been. And then there was something in it she had not heard before, a small roughness, like a stone under water. I have, he said carefully, Been alone for a long time. Not by myself. There is a difference. I have had people around me constantly for 15 years. I have not been alone. But I have been alone, Lena, and I didn't know I was until I walked into that ballroom and saw you put down a tray of champagne in front of a man who did not deserve to breathe the same air as you, and you smiled at him the way you smile at people who are going to hurt you, because you had been taught that that smile was the price of surviving the evening. And I watched it, and I thought... He stopped. He took a breath. I thought, I am going to be the reason she does not smile like that again. That is what I thought. And I am aware that that is a proprietary thought. I am aware that it is the kind of thought a man has no business having about a woman he has not met. I'm not offering it as a promise. I'm offering it as an explanation. You asked for a theory. That's my theory. Lena sat very still. The diner clattered around her. Someone laughed. A cup hit a saucer. A bell rang in the kitchen. That's a dangerous thing to say to a stranger, she said finally. Yes. I don't belong to you. No, you don't. I know that. I don't belong to anyone. I know that too. Good. They sat in silence for a minute. Then she said, I'm going to finish my coffee. And then I'm going to go back to the library and I'm going to study pharmacology until I can't see straight. And I'm not going to call you tonight, and I'm not going to call you tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm going to call you at all. And if you send another car to my apartment or another envelope to my stoop, I'm going to return both, and I'm going to be angry. Is that understood? Understood. But I would like... She stopped. She took a breath. She was not good at saying what she wanted. She had not had a lot of practice. I would like to know what book you were reading when I walked in. He looked down at the paperback, then back up at her. He slid the book across the table toward her. It was a copy of the collected stories of Grace Paley, battered, dog-eared, read and reread. My mother gave it to me when I was 17, he said. I've been rereading it since I was 18. I keep thinking I'll stop. I never do. Your mother. She died when I was 22. I'm sorry. Thank you. Is she why you bet? No, she is very much why I am not worse than I am. She is not why I am what I am. Those are separate questions. Lena nodded. She did not push. She understood from the way he had said it that there was a whole history in those two sentences and that he was not going to open it today and that pushing would have been a kind of theft. She slid the book back across the table to him. I'm going to go, she said. Okay. Thank you for the grilled cheese. You're welcome. Adrian. Yes. If I call you, that doesn't mean anything. I know. I want you to know it doesn't mean anything. Ahead of time. Lena, I know. She stood up. She pulled on her coat. She hesitated at the edge of the booth, and then she did something she had not planned to do, which was reach down and touch his hand very briefly, just the backs of her fingers against the backs of his, for maybe a second and a half. And then she pulled her hand back and walked out of the diner without looking at him. She did not look back. She did not see his face. Which was good, because the look on his face for approximately 6 seconds after she walked out of the door was a look that no one who worked for Adrian DeLuca had seen on his face in 19 years. And if any of them had seen it, they would have been frightened, not because it was cruel, but because it was not. She called him 4 days later. It was a Saturday night. She had finished the pharmacology exam. She was pretty sure she had not failed it. She had not celebrated. She had come home and she had stood at her kitchenette counter in her sock feet and eaten half a box of saltines with peanut butter. And she had opened her laptop and looked at her bank account, which now had, after the check cleared, $3,814 in it, the most money she had possessed in one place since her mother's funeral. She had stared at the number for a long time. Then she had picked up her phone. He answered on the second ring. Lena? Hi. Are you all right? I'm fine. I'm not calling because anything's wrong. Okay. She closed her eyes. She pressed her forehead against the cabinet. I just wanted to hear your voice. There was a pause. It was not a long pause. But in it, she could hear him adjusting to what she had said, the way a man adjusts to the weight of a thing he has been handed and did not expect to be handed. Okay, he said quietly. That's all. I'm not asking for anything. I know. Tell me something. What? I don't know. Anything. Tell me about your day. Tell me what you ate for dinner. Tell me a story. I had a meeting this morning that did not go well. Someone I have worked with for 12 years lied to me about a piece of business, and I had to decide how to respond to the lie. And the response is going to take a long time and be expensive, and I don't enjoy any part of it. I ate spaghetti at my desk at 4 o'clock. I read for an hour after that. I was thinking about calling you. You were? Yes. Why didn't you? Because you told me not to. I didn't tell you. You told me it would mean nothing if you called me, which means it would mean something if I called you. I was respecting the rule. She laughed. It was a small, tired laugh. She was holding the phone too tightly against her ear. Adrian. Yes. This is going to be a mistake, isn't it? He was quiet for a long time. Lena, he said finally, I can't answer that. I can tell you what I hope. I hope that it will be hard and that it will require things of both of us that we do not currently know how to give, and that at the end of whatever it is, we will both look back and decide that it was worth the cost. That is what I hope. I cannot promise you that it won't be a mistake. I can promise you that I will not lie to you, and I can promise you that I will not hurt you. And I can promise you that if at any point you tell me you want out, I will open the door and hold it for you, and I will not follow you through it. Those are the only 3 promises I have to give. If they are not enough, tell me now. She sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere in the building, somebody was playing a piano, badly, the same 4 bars of something over and over. They're enough, she said. For now, they're enough. Okay? Adrian. Yes. Don't send any more envelopes. Okay? Don't send any more cars. Okay? If you want to see me, you can ask me, like a person asking another person. I'll say yes or no. Okay, Lena, I'm going to hang up now. All right. Good night. Good night. She hung up. She sat on the kitchen floor for a long time. Outside her window, the city was doing the thing it did at night, that slow, soft accumulation of sirens and voices and the clatter of metal gates being pulled down over storefronts. And she could hear Mrs. Gutierrez upstairs on the phone with someone in Spanish, the rise and fall of a familiar argument, and she thought about her mother in the diner booth outside Scranton telling her that the devil came in a lot of suits. And she thought about Adrian DeLuca's hand on the back of a chair, and she thought about the fact that she had just told a man who ran goods and money through the shadow networks of a city that she wanted to hear his voice, and she did not know what she had just done. And she did not know if she cared. She pushed herself up off the floor. She washed her face. She went to bed. And in her sleep, for the first time in 6 months, she did not dream about her mother dying. She dreamed about a hand closing over another man's throat, and a voice saying, "Let go of the girl," and a platinum band catching the firelight. And when she woke up in the morning, she lay very still for a long time before she remembered that she was supposed to feel bad about it. She was supposed to feel bad about it for a long time, and for a while she did, in the small intermittent way that a person feels guilty about a thing they have not yet committed to. They did not see each other for 11 days after that phone call. She told herself she was busy. She was busy. She had an OB rotation that started at 4:30 in the morning, and she had a shift at the free clinic on Tuesday nights, and she had a paper due on iron deficiency anemia in pediatric populations that she had written most of on the subway. There was no time. There was no room in her life for a man in a gray sweater sitting in a diner booth. That was the story she was telling herself. But she texted him. She texted him in the small cracks of her day, the 90 seconds between the L and the 1, the 12 minutes of a waiting room wait, the half hour before sleep when she lay in bed with her phone face down on her chest and then picked it up again. The texts were small. They were nothing. Coffee here is burnt. The attending made me cry today, kind of. I just saw a man walking a ferret on a leash, and he answered every one of them, always within a few minutes, always briefly, always in a way that made her feel, against all of her better judgment, that he had been waiting. On the 12th day, he asked if he could see her. He asked it in the phrasing she had given him, like a person asking another person. "Can I see you on Sunday? You can say no." She said yes. He picked her up at her building at 11 in the morning. He drove himself. No Solomon, no Mercedes. A small dark green SUV that looked 10 years old, A Subaru of all things, with a dent in the back quarter panel and a paper coffee cup in the console. He was wearing jeans and a canvas jacket over a flannel shirt, and he looked so much like a regular person that for the first 3 seconds after she got in the car, she did not recognize him. "You look like a dad," she said. "I'm aware. It's deliberate." "Where are we going?" "You didn't tell me where we were going. I was going to ask you." "Adrian." "Yes?" "You don't have a plan?" "I have about 6 plans. I was going to let you pick one." She laughed. She put on her seatbelt. The interior of the car smelled like coffee and leather and faintly like cedar. She said, "Tell me the plans. In order of ambition. 1, we drive upstate and eat pie at a place I know in Kingston. 2, we walk around the Met for an hour, and I pretend to know things about paintings. 3, we sit on a bench in Central Park, and you tell me about your week. 4, we go to my apartment, and I cook you lunch. 5, we go to a diner I know where the pancakes are very good. 6, we do nothing. We sit in this car and we drink coffee, and we talk for an hour, and then I take you home. What's the diner where the pancakes are good?" "It's Joe's." "We already went to Joe's." "Yes." "You want to go back to Joe's?" "I always want to go back to Joe's." She looked at him for a moment. Something in her chest hurt, a small particular ache, and she did not yet know how to name it. "Central Park," she said. "The bench." "That one." "Okay." They drove across to Fifth Avenue, and he parked illegally, and he paid a man at a hot dog cart $10 to watch the car, and they walked into the park. It was November. The trees were the color of things that had given up, rust and rot and yellow, and the air smelled like wet leaves and someone burning something far away. They walked for maybe 20 minutes without speaking. Not awkwardly, just walking. She had not walked in silence with a man in a long time, and she had forgotten how much she could learn about a person from the way they moved through space beside her. He walked on her street side. She noticed that. She did not mention it. They found a bench near the Bethesda fountain. He took off his jacket and laid it on the bench before she sat down, which she had always thought was something men only did in movies. "You don't have to do that." "I know." "It's not that cold." "I know." She sat down on the jacket. He sat down next to her, not touching, a careful 6 inches. "You wanted me to tell you about my week," she said. "I did. I'm tired." "I know. I failed a patient." He turned his head. "What happened?" "I didn't fail her. I didn't. The attending failed her. The system failed her. I was there. She came into the clinic with a mass in her breast, the size of a plum. She had known about it for 2 years, Adrian. 2 years. She kept not coming in because she was afraid of what it would cost. I stood there with her, and I watched her try to explain to the attending why she hadn't come in sooner, and the attending, she wasn't cruel. She wasn't. She didn't listen. She asked her the questions, and she didn't listen to the answers. And I stood there, and I thought, this is her. This is the doctor I promised my mother I wasn't going to be. Were you the doctor? No. I'm a student. Were you the student? Yes. Were you the person who listened? Yes. Then you didn't fail her. It's not that simple. It almost never is. But you didn't fail her, Lena. Not today. She did not answer. She watched a small boy run after a pigeon with his arms out. The pigeon waddled away, unhurried. The boy's mother called his name. Tell me something, she said. What? Something about you. A real thing. Not a story. Something hard. He was quiet for a long time. My father, he said finally. My father was not a good man. I don't say that as a complaint. I say it as a piece of information. He did the things that men like him do, and he did them for a long time. And he died when I was 19, and he died badly, and I was not sad when he died. I was not glad either. I was unrelieved. I thought I would be relieved. I had spent my whole life telling myself that when he was gone, I would be free. And then he was gone, and I was not free. I was just my father's son without my father. And I inherited... He stopped. I inherited a business, Lena. I didn't want it. I wanted to be a journalist. That was what I wanted to be when I was 17. I was going to write for a newspaper. That was the plan. And then my father died, and his people came to my mother, and they told her very politely that certain things needed to continue, and that if they did not continue, she would not be safe. And I was 19, and I made a choice, and the choice was that my mother was going to be safe. And I have been making that choice over and over for 15 years. My mother has been dead for 12 of those years. I have not found a way to stop making the choice." Lena did not move. "That's not an excuse," he said. "I want to be clear. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. A lot of men do a lot of things and tell themselves they are doing them because they have no choice, and most of them are lying. I am probably one of them. I have had chances to walk away. I didn't walk. That's on me." "Why didn't you walk?" He thought about it. "Because I'm good at it, he said. "That's the ugliest answer. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at reading people, and I am good at the arithmetic of threat and response. And I built something that has its own weight, and the weight of the thing I built is partly what keeps the people under me alive. If I walked away tomorrow, 60 people would be in a worse position by Friday. Some of them would be dead by the end of the year. I've told myself that for so long that I don't know anymore if it's true or if it's a story I tell myself to keep doing what I already wanted to do." "Adrian?" "Yes. That's a lot to tell someone on a park bench." "I know. Why are you telling me?" "Because you asked." She looked at him. He was looking at the fountain. His profile against the gray November sky was not soft and not handsome in a gentle way. It was the profile of a man who had spent his life being looked at by people who were afraid of him, and she understood suddenly that she had not seen him look at her the way he looked at other people. He did not look at her like she was a transaction. He looked at her like she was a sentence he had not finished reading. "I'm going to hold your hand," she said. "Okay." She put her hand on top of his where it rested on the bench. He did not turn his palm up. He did not close his fingers around hers. He just let her hand sit on top of his, very still, as though any movement on his part might frighten something away. And they sat like that for a while. And after a minute or two, very slowly, he turned his palm up and laced his fingers through hers. And he did not say anything, and neither did she. They sat on the bench for another half hour. Then he drove her home. That was the beginning of November, and in the 9 weeks that followed, her life began very quietly to restructure itself around him. She did not move in with him. She did not take his money again. Not once, despite several careful offers that he made and retracted with an almost formal grace. She did not meet his people, except for Solomon, who picked her up twice when Adrian was caught in something at work and could not come himself, and who spoke to her with a stiff deferential courtesy that made her feel like she was being handled as a piece of porcelain. But she saw him 3 times a week, sometimes 4. He came to her study sessions at the medical library and sat across from her with a laptop of his own, doing whatever it was he did on laptops. And when she looked up, he would be looking at her, and he would not pretend he had not been. He cooked for her, twice, in his apartment on the 34th floor of a building overlooking the river. And the apartment was beautiful and cold and impersonal in a way that she understood was not about taste, but about the absence of a life lived in it. He had a cleaning service. He had no plants. There was one framed photograph on his dresser, a woman in her 60s, at a kitchen table, laughing, and he did not tell her it was his mother because he did not need to. She told him about her life. She told him small things, and then she told him bigger things. She told him about her father, who had left when she was 6, and about her stepfather, who had not been cruel but had not been interested, and about the long, slow dying of her mother, and about the way she had come to hate certain hospital smells. She told him about her friend from high school who had been raped at a frat party sophomore year of college and had not reported it because the boy's father was a judge, and about how that had been the moment she had started to understand that the world was not arranged in her favor. He listened to all of it. He did not interrupt. He did not try to solve. He had the particular patience of a man who had been taught young that talking was the least reliable way of getting information, and she understood, after a few weeks of it, that he was listening to her the way he listened to people he was going to protect, which was with total attention and no promises. And then, 2 days before Christmas, her brother called. She had a brother. This was not something she talked about much, not even to Priya. His name was Danny, and he was 3 years older than her, and he had been, for the entirety of Lena's life, the reason her mother had aged at twice the normal rate of human aging. Danny was charming and sick. He was sick in the specific way that some people are sick, which was that his brain rewarded him for lying and did not reward him for most other things. And he had been in and out of rehab 4 times and in and out of jail twice. And he had stolen from their mother every year of her adult life. And he had not come to her funeral because he had been detoxing in a motel room in Reno and could not get on a plane. Lena had not spoken to him in 8 months. He called her at 3 in the afternoon on December 23rd, and his voice on the phone was the voice she remembered from the worst of it. A smooth, persuasive mumble that made her feel, within 10 seconds, like a bad sister for having a full checking account and an apartment with heat in it. Lee. Danny. Don't hang up. I wasn't going to. Yes, you were. I can hear it in your voice. Don't hang up. What do you want, Danny? I'm in trouble. You're always in trouble. I know. This is different. She closed her eyes. She was in the hallway of her building. She had just come up from the mailbox. She was holding a flyer for a Chinese restaurant and a past due notice for something she could not afford to open. How much? She said. Lena? How much, Danny? 16,000. She did not say anything. Lena, listen to me. It's not drugs. It's not drugs this time. I'm working. I got a job. It's a construction thing. It's legit, I promise. But I got in a car, Lena. I got in a car with a guy, and the guy was doing something I didn't know about, and he got pulled over, and the cops... Danny. The cops found stuff in the car that wasn't mine. Danny. And I had to get a lawyer, and the lawyer wants retainer up front, and if I don't pay him by the day after tomorrow, he's going to drop me. And if he drops me, I'm going to do time, Lena. Real time. Not a year, real time. And I can't... Lily, I can't do that. I can't. You have to help me. I don't have $16,000. I know you don't. Then why are you calling me? A pause. It was a small pause, and in it she understood exactly what was coming, and her stomach turned over. I know you don't, Danny said carefully, but I saw something on Aunt Rose's Facebook. What? She said you were seeing somebody. A guy with money. Lena's hand closed on the flyer in her fist. How does Aunt Rose know that? Priya told her mom. Priya's mom told... Priya did not tell your aunt anything. Somebody told somebody, Lily. I'm just asking. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm asking. If you've got a guy who can spot me 16... No. Lena. No, Danny. Absolutely not. I am hanging up. Lena, if I go to prison, I will die in there. Do you understand me? I will actually die in there. I owe people money inside. I owe... She hung up. She stood in the hallway with the phone in her hand, and she was shaking. She was shaking all the way down to her feet. She leaned her forehead against the wall. The wall was cold. The hallway smelled like cabbage, the way it always smelled in winter because of the Ukrainian family on 2. She stood there for a long time. Then she opened her door, and she went inside, and she sat on her bed, and she cried for 20 minutes. Not prettily, not the way women cry in movies, the ugly kind, the kind with snot in it and sounds she would have been embarrassed for anyone to hear. Then she wiped her face. Then she picked up her phone. Then she put it back down. Then she picked it up again, and she stared at his name in her contacts for a long time, and she did not press it. She did not call him. She did not tell Adrian about the phone call. She told herself she was not going to tell him because she did not want his money, and she did not want his help, and she did not want Danny to be a problem in the small, clean shape of the things she and Adrian were building. Those were the reasons she gave herself. They were true. They were not the only reasons. The other reason, the one she did not say out loud, was that she did not trust herself not to ask. She went to dinner at Adrian's apartment on Christmas Eve because he had asked her to, and she ate the food he cooked, which was a thing with chicken and lemons and olives that had taken him 4 hours. And she smiled at him, and she did not tell him about Danny, and he watched her across the table and said very gently after the second glass of wine, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Lena." "I said nothing." He did not push. That was the first mistake she made about him. Assuming he had stopped because she'd asked, on December 26th, Danny called her 5 times. On the 27th, 8 times. On the 28th, she blocked his number, and then 2 hours later she unblocked it because she could not stop thinking about him being somewhere she could not reach him if something happened. On December 29th, at 9:45 at night, her phone rang, and it was not Danny. It was a number she did not know. "Miss Carter?" "Speaking." "Miss Carter, my name is Phil Werner. I'm an attorney. I'm calling on behalf of your brother, Daniel Carter. I'm calling because there's been a development in his situation, and he asked me to reach out to you directly." What kind of development? The retainer issue has been resolved, Miss Carter. In full. She sat down on her bed. I'm sorry, she said. The retainer was paid in full this afternoon. Your brother is no longer in danger of losing representation. I have taken the case. I wanted to call you personally because your brother seemed very concerned that you might be made to feel responsible, and he wanted you to know that you are not. That's all. Do you have any questions for me? Who paid? I'm sorry? Who paid the retainer? The payment came from a third party, Miss Carter. I'm not at liberty to disclose the source. Was it Adrian DeLuca? A very long pause. Miss Carter, the lawyer said carefully, I'm not at liberty to disclose the source of the payment. Thank you. Good night. She hung up the phone. She did not cry this time. She was a long way past crying. She sat on the bed and she looked at the wall for what felt like a very long time. And she thought about the fact that she had not told him, and the fact that he had found out anyway, and the fact that $16,000 was roughly 2% of what he probably had in the checking account of the cleanest of his legitimate businesses, and the fact that he had moved the money without asking her and without telling her, and had intended, she understood now, to never tell her. She picked up her keys, she went downstairs. She hailed a cab. It was after 10. The cab cost $41, including tip. She got out at his building. The doorman knew her by now. He nodded her up without calling. She knocked on Adrian's door. He opened it. He was in sweatpants and a t-shirt. His hair was wet from the shower. He saw her face and his own face changed. Lena, you paid my brother's lawyer. He did not answer immediately. I'm not going to lie to you, he said. That was my first promise. So yes. Yes. How did you even know about him? There are $400 a month going out of your checking account in the form of money orders to a P.O. box in Bakersfield. They've been going out since before I knew you. I asked Solomon to find out who was on the other end. He found out. You looked at my bank account. I didn't. Solomon did. Which is the same thing. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. Adrian? I know. Adrian, you can't just... I know. Danny he's not a good person. He's not going to stop. He's going to hit me up again in 6 months and then 6 months after that. And if you pay the lawyer, he is going to take that as information. He is going to put that in the little file in his head of what's available to him. And he is going to come back. And I have spent my entire adult life keeping him off of me. And you just... Her voice broke. You just spent $16,000 giving him directions to me. Adrian did not say anything. He stepped back from the doorway. He held the door open. Come inside, he said. No. Lena. No. I'm saying this in the hallway. I want you to hear it with your feet in the hallway, not sitting down in that apartment like you can manage me. He stepped into the hallway. He closed the door behind him. He was in his socks. Okay, he said. Say it. You can't fix things for me. Okay. You can't reach into my life like that. You can't decide what my problems are and solve them around me. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how good your intentions are. That is not love, Adrian. That is ownership. And I already told you once that I don't belong to you. I know. Do you? He was silent for a long moment. Lena, he said slowly, you're right. You're right. And I am not going to argue with you about it because you are entirely and completely right. And I am going to apologize to you and I am going to promise you that I will not do it again. I will never move money around you again. I will never solve a problem of yours without asking you. If you ever want my help with anything, you will have to ask me for it in words. And until you do, I will sit on my hands and I will be quiet. I am sorry. I was frightened for you. I heard the phone call to you. I heard the pattern of it. I saw the calls coming in. I saw what happened to your sleep. I watched you sit across from me at dinner on Christmas Eve and tell me nothing was wrong, and I could see it was wrong, and He stopped. He swallowed. I panicked. I panicked like a man who does not know how to panic like other people. I panicked by writing a check. And I should not have done it, and I am sorry, and I am going to undo it, if you want me to undo it. You can't undo it. I can. I have people. The money can come back out of the retainer by tomorrow morning, and your brother can go to the public defender, and none of this will have ever happened. He'll go to prison. Probably. She closed her eyes. Don't undo it, she said. Okay. But you will never do anything like it again. I will never do anything like it again. Swear it. I swear it. On what? He looked at her. On the only thing I have, he said, that's worth swearing on, which is the last 12 years of my life being a thing I can walk away from. If I break this promise to you, I will walk away from every part of it, and I will mean it. That is what I'm swearing it on. She looked at him for a long time. She was not crying. She realized she had stopped being angry somewhere in the middle of his apology, which was annoying because she had come here prepared to be angry for at least an hour. I don't know if I believe you, she said. I don't blame you. I think you meant to tell me the truth just now. I'm not sure that's the same as the truth. It's not. I know it's not. Adrian. Yes. I'm tired. I know. Can I sit down? Yes. Come inside, please. She went inside. She sat on his couch. He made her tea. They sat on opposite ends of the couch with about 3 feet between them, and they did not touch. And at some point around 1 in the morning, she fell asleep with her head against the arm of the couch, and he put a blanket over her, and he sat in the chair across the room, and he watched her sleep for a long time, not in a creeping way, just in the way a person watches a thing they have come very close to losing. And in the morning she woke up, and she saw him in the chair, and she said, "Did you sleep?" And he said, "No." And she said, "Come here." And he came. He sat down on the floor in front of the couch with his back against it. She reached down and she put her hand on the back of his neck. And she did not say anything, and he did not say anything. And they stayed like that for a long time while the light came up gray over the river outside. Something was different after that morning. Not better, necessarily. Harder in a way, but different. They stopped pretending, both of them, that whatever they were doing was small. They stopped pretending that either of them was going to walk away. He did not send any more envelopes. She did not ask for any more reassurances. In the first week of January, she gave him a key to her apartment, and a week after that he gave her one to his, and neither of them used the keys. But the having of them was a kind of promise, a quiet one, the kind that does not get said in words. And then, on the 22nd of January, a man named Victor Rella walked out of a federal prison in Otisville, New York, after serving 9 years of a 15-year sentence. He got into a car that was waiting for him. The car drove to a house in Queens. Inside the house was a telephone and a list of names, and at the top of the list was a name Adrian DeLuca had not said out loud in 9 years. And at the bottom of the list, underlined twice in black ink, was the name Lena Carter. Lena did not know about the list. She did not know about Victor Rella, or the car in Otisville, or the house in Queens with the phone and the names. What she knew on the 23rd of January was that Adrian had not answered her texts since the night before, and that when she finally got him on the phone at 4 in the afternoon, his voice was wrong. "Lena." "Hey, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Where are you?" "I'm at the library. I was going to go home around 7. Can you go home now?" She stopped with her pen halfway to the page. "Adrian, please go home now." "Why?" "I'm going to come pick you up. I'll meet you at your apartment. Can you go now?" "Tell me what's going on." "I will, when I see you." She went home. She took a cab. She did not know why she took a cab. Something in his voice had reached down into her spine and reorganized the day. She sat in the back with her bag on her lap, and she watched the streets go by, and she realized about halfway up Broadway that she was looking at the other cars. She was looking at the other cars for anything that was looking back. He was already at her apartment when she got there. He was sitting on the steps of her building with his elbows on his knees. He stood up when he saw her. He did not smile. "Inside," he said. She let them in. She flicked on the lights. The apartment was small and cluttered and warm, and under normal circumstances she would have been self-conscious about the pile of laundry on the armchair, but she was not thinking about the laundry. "Sit down," he said. "You sit down. You're pacing." He did not sit down. "Lena, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen, and I need you not to interrupt me for about 3 minutes. Can you do that?" "Yes. 9 years ago I was responsible for putting a man in prison. His name is Victor Rella. I was not the reason he went in, but I was part of the reason he stayed in, and I was the reason the sentence came down the way it did. He was released yesterday morning. I did not know he had been released. I should have known. That's on me. I have people whose job is to know and they missed it, and now I have the information and I am working on why they missed it, because that matters. But what matters more right now is that he has a list of people he wants to hurt. I know he has the list because one of the names on it is a man who works for me, and that man came to me this morning. I told him to take his family to Vermont by tonight. He is packing. He'll be gone in 2 hours. Am I on the list? He did not answer. Adrian, am I on the list? Yes. The apartment was very quiet. The radiator ticked. A car horn blared somewhere on Amsterdam. How do I... She stopped. She started again. How does he know who I am? He's been out a day. He has people. He's known who I am for 9 years. My people have been watching yours since the moment I met you, Lena, which I should have told you about sooner, and I am sorry about. And we can have that conversation later. Right now, the only thing that matters is that you cannot sleep here tonight. Okay? I want you to come to my apartment. My building has security. The security is not perfect, but it is a great deal better than the security you have here, which is a buzzer and a lock that any 15-year-old could open in under a minute. Okay. Are you angry with me? About what? About the part where I just told you my people have been watching you. She looked at him. She looked at him for a long time. We are going to have a conversation about that, she said. A long one. We are going to have it tomorrow morning. Right now we are going to pack a bag and we are going to get in your car. Are you armed? What? Are you armed, Adrian? Yes. Okay, good. He blinked. He said, that is not the response I was expecting. I'm a medical student. I am very good at triage. We can have the argument about your dark ethical choices when there is not a man on a list trying to kill me. For tonight, I want the gun, and I want the apartment, and I want you to tell me the truth about everything. Everything, Adrian. If I find out you held anything back from me tonight, we are done. Do you understand? Yes. Pack my things faster than I pack them. I don't want to be slow. He packed her things faster than she packed them. They were in the car in 11 minutes. He drove. She sat in the passenger seat with a duffel bag in the footwell and her textbooks on her lap because she had refused to leave them, and she watched the side mirror all the way to his building. Nobody followed them. Or if anybody did, nobody did it in a way she could see. The building had underground parking. He had never taken her that way before. He parked in a reserved spot near the elevator. There was a man standing by the elevator. Not Solomon. A younger man, maybe 30, broad through the shoulders in a gray coat. He nodded at Adrian as they approached. Miss Carter, the man said. Hi. Mr. DeLuca. Anything. Nothing. Building's clean. Roof, service entrance, all 3 stairwells. 2 men on the lobby, 1 on her floor, 1 on yours. Good. Thank you, Milo. Sir? They went up in the elevator in silence. Lena could feel her heart in her throat. Her hands had started to shake at some point, and she had not noticed when. She put them in her coat pocket so he would not see. He saw anyway. In the apartment, he took her coat. He set her duffel down by the door. He took her hands, very gently, and he rubbed them between his own for a moment, the way a parent might rub a child's hands on a cold day, and he said, Ki, come and sit down. I'm going to make you something to eat, and you're going to eat it, and then we are going to talk. I'm not hungry. I know. Eat anyway. He made her pasta. Simple pasta, butter and black pepper, and parmesan, which she had said once, weeks ago, was the thing her mother used to make her when she was sick. He remembered. Of course he remembered. He had the kind of memory that made her feel sometimes like she was being filed. She ate half of it. That was all she could manage. Then she sat on the couch, the same couch she had slept on 3 weeks ago, and she said, Tell me everything. He sat down across from her in the chair he had sat in that morning while she slept. Ask, he said. I'll answer. Anything you want. The watching? Solomon, and a woman named Inez Park. They have been taking turns on a rotating basis, making sure that the building you live in is not being surveilled by people who are not us. They started the week I met you. They started without me telling them to start. When I found out they were doing it, I told them to stop, and they told me no. They told me no because they are not stupid, and because they have known me longer than you have. And they said to me that if I was going to keep seeing you, they were going to keep watching you, because they were not willing to be the ones who had to identify your body if something went wrong. That was Solomon's phrasing, not mine. I am repeating it to you because you told me not to hold anything back. How close do they get? Not close. They sit in cars. They watch foot traffic. They watch for patterns. They do not follow you to school. They do not listen to your phone. They do not photograph you. Are you sure about that last part? I am sure about Solomon and Inez. I cannot be entirely sure that nobody else has ever photographed you, because I have enemies I do not know I have, and some of them have been curious about me for a long time. I have operated for 9 years on the assumption that anybody close to me is being watched by someone, somewhere. That is the life. I did not invite you into it. But I walked into that ballroom and I put my hand on Miles's neck, and I did that in a room with 200 people in it, and I have to live with the fact that I did. There were other ways to help you that night, quieter ways. I did not choose them. Why didn't you? Because I wanted him to see me do it. I wanted everyone in that room to see me do it. I wanted it recorded, in the collective memory of people who matter, that you were a person I would put a hand on a man for. That was in effect a claim. I am not proud of it. I was not thinking about you that night, Lena. I was thinking about me. Lena was quiet for a long time. Tell me about Victor Rella, she said. Victor Rella used to work for my father. He did not work for me, because by the time my father was dead, I had already begun the process of cleaning out the people who had worked for my father, and Victor was one of the first ones out. He did not take it well. He started his own thing. For a few years, we had an arrangement, me and him. Territorial. Then, 9 years ago, he took a contract I had told him explicitly he could not take. It was a contract on a man whose daughter was 11 years old. Not a piece of work I was going to allow in my city. I told him no. He took it anyway. I made a phone call. The phone call was to a federal prosecutor who had been trying to get to Victor for 6 years and had not been able to. I gave the prosecutor 3 hours of audio that I had been collecting for 2 years for exactly that kind of moment. Victor went to prison. He was supposed to be there until 2031. He has been in for 9 years and he is out now, and I do not know why. And my people are finding out why, and by tomorrow morning I will know. Is the 11-year-old still alive? Yes. Good. I'm sorry? I said good. He looked at her. Lena, he said, I'm not saying I approve of how you got him there. I'm saying I'm glad the 11-year-old is alive. Those are two different things. Keep going. Victor blames me for the 9 years. He is not wrong to. If he wanted to come after me, he would come after me. He's been out a day and he has already made clear, through certain channels, that he is not going to come after me directly. He is going to come after the people I care about. That is an old strategy. It is a strategy that tells me he is not interested in taking over anything. He is not a businessman anymore. He is not trying to get anything back. He wants to hurt me. That is the whole goal. So what do? I kill him. He said it without emphasis. He said it the way a surgeon says we'll have to take the kidney. It was just a sentence. It was just a sentence that had been the logical endpoint of everything since the car in Otisville, and he had been turning it over in his mouth all day, and she could see now that by the time he had called her at 4 in the afternoon, he had already made the decision. Adrian. Yes. Don't. He looked at her. Lena, he said slowly, I have to. No. No, you don't. You are going to listen to me, and you are going to listen to me very carefully, because I need you to understand that the thing you just said is not a neutral thing. The thing you just said is the thing my life becomes after you say it. If you kill this man, you are going to do it because of me, and you are going to carry that, and I am going to carry that, and we are going to go to sleep every night of whatever life we have left with the fact of that inside the bed with us. I don't want it inside the bed with us, Adrian. Go outside. And you think I do. I think you're tired. I think you're scared. I think you have done this kind of arithmetic so many times in your life that it has stopped feeling like arithmetic. And I think that if I let you do it now, tonight, the way you are planning to do it, you're going to do it the way you have always done it, and I am going to lose you. Not to the police, not to some other Victor Rella. I'm going to lose you to the part of yourself you have been running away from for 15 years, and it is going to come back in, and it is going to fill up all the room I have been trying to make for the other part. And we are going to be finished. I am not going to leave you. You're going to leave yourself, and I am going to watch, and there is going to be nothing I can do about it." He did not answer. She was crying. She had not noticed when she had started crying. Her nose was running. She wiped it on her sleeve. She did not care. "You asked me what I wanted," she said, on the park bench. "You said you hoped that at the end of whatever this was, we would both look back and think it had been worth the cost. This is the cost, Adrian. You kill this man and you save my life tonight and you cost us the rest of it. That is the math. That is the actual math. Don't do it." "Lena, if I don't, he is going to kill you. Do you understand that? He is going to walk up behind you at a bus stop one morning, and he is going to put a gun against your skull, and he is going to kill you, and I am going to have to identify your body. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes." "Then how can you—" "Because I am not going to let you become the man who did that to keep it from happening. I am not worth it, Adrian. Nobody is worth it. And if you do it, I am going to live, and I am going to live for 40 years, and I am going to spend those 40 years knowing you did it, and I will not be able to love you the way I want to love you. Because every time you touch me, I will feel his blood on your hands. Do you understand what I am telling you?" They sat in the silence of that for a very long time. He had his face in his hands. She had her arms wrapped around her knees on his couch, and she was not a person in a movie, and she was not a heroine, and her nose was running, and her eyes were red, and she had not brushed her teeth since morning, and she loved him. She had not said it. She understood, sitting on the couch with her knees pulled up, that she had not said it, and that she was going to have to say it, because if she did not say it tonight, she was not going to get the chance to say it at all. One of them was not going to make it through the next 48 hours the same way they had come in. "Adrian." He looked up. "I love you," she said. He closed his eyes. "I love you, and I have been trying not to say it for about 9 weeks, because I was afraid that if I said it out loud, it was going to make it real, and real is the thing I cannot afford to lose. And I have decided tonight that I'm going to be able to afford whatever it costs. I love you. I love you with the part of me that still believes people can change, which is not a very big part of me anymore. But it is the best part. And I am giving it to you. And I am telling you that I do not want to give it to a man who has just killed somebody on my behalf. I want to give it to the man who decided not to." "Lena, yes. You are asking me to do the hardest thing I have ever done. I know. If I don't kill him, I have to do something else. Something else also hard. Something that works, that actually works. Because if it doesn't work, he is going to kill you. And I cannot be the man who lets that happen either. Do you understand there is no clean version of this? I know. And you trust me. I don't trust you. I'm choosing to act as though I do. That's different." He laughed. It was a bitter laugh, and it was a short laugh, and it was the first sound he had made in about 20 minutes that was not a sentence. "Fair enough," he said. He stood up. He walked to the window. He stood at the window for a long time, looking out at the river. He had his hands in his pockets. She could see, even from across the room, that his shoulders were shaking, very faintly, and she understood for the first time in a real way that she had been right earlier, that he was scared. He was scared in a way he had not been scared in years. He was scared the way people who have stopped being scared of most things are scared when the one thing they have not figured out how to survive arrives at the door. He turned around. "Okay," he said. "Okay? Okay, Lena. Not the kill. Something else. I have to make a phone call. I have to make several phone calls. I have to do something I have not done in a long time, which is ask for help from people I do not usually ask for help from. And it is going to take me most of the night, and I am going to need you to stay in this apartment and not open the door for anyone but me. And I am going to need you to eat something in the morning, whether you want to or not. And I'm going to need you to be here when I come back." "Okay. I will be back by noon. Okay?" "Lena, yes. If this does not work, if I do the not killing him thing, and it doesn't work, and he comes for you anyway, I am going to kill him then. I will not ask you first. I want that on the table. That is my condition. You get the chance. You get the one chance. After that, it is mine. Okay? Say it." "Yes, yes, Adrian, I agree." He crossed the room. He put his forehead against hers. He did not kiss her. He just pressed his forehead against hers and he closed his eyes and she closed hers. And they stayed like that for a long minute. And then he stepped back and he picked up his coat and he left. She did not sleep that night. She sat up on the couch with the television on low, some cooking show she wasn't watching, and she read 3 chapters of endocrinology that she would not remember in the morning. And she ate 2 pieces of toast at 4 a.m. standing at the counter because she had promised him she would eat. And she looked out the window at the lights of the city, and she did not cry anymore because she had cried herself dry earlier in the evening and there was nothing left. He came back at 11:30. He looked like he had not slept. He had not shaved. The whites of his eyes were pink. He sat down on the couch next to her. Not across from her this time. Next to her. He put his hand on her knee. "It's done," he said. "What did you do?" "I gave him something he wanted more than he wanted to hurt you." "What?" The name of the person who paid to have his sentence reduced from 15 to 9. The name of the person he did not know existed. The name of the person who, it turns out, had been letting him rot in there for 4 years longer than he needed to because it was cheaper to keep him in there than it was to kill him, and who cut him loose yesterday because the balance finally tipped the other way. I gave him that name, and I told him where that person would be at 4 p.m. tomorrow. I did not point the gun, Lena. I told him where the gun would be and whose house it was in. What he does with that information is his. Adrian. I know. That's not, I know. That's, Lena, I know. I know. I am not telling you it was clean. I am telling you it was not mine, which is what you asked for. I turned him at somebody else. He is going to go do the thing he was going to do to you, and he is going to do it to somebody else. And that somebody else is in fact a person who does not have clean hands either. And I am telling you this because I am not going to lie to you. And I am also telling you that I am not going to feel bad about it. Because if I start feeling bad about it, I am not going to be able to function. And I need to function because you are in this apartment and you need to still be alive on Friday. Aji, She took his hand off her knee. She did not throw it off. She lifted it gently and she held it in both of hers. And she looked at it. The long fingers, the platinum band, the small white scar along the side of the thumb she had never asked him about. And she brought it to her mouth, and she pressed her lips against his knuckles, very briefly, and then she put his hand back down on his own leg. "Okay," she said. "Okay? Okay, Adrian, you did what I asked. I am not going to punish you for doing what I asked. I am going to be angry with you later, probably, in a small way, in the way that I am going to be angry with myself later, and we are going to survive it. Did you sleep at all?" "No." "Come to bed." "Lena, not like that. Come to bed and sleep. You are going to fall over. Come on." She led him to his own bedroom. She took off his shoes. She pulled the blanket down. She made him get under it. She took off her own shoes and she got under the blanket next to him, on top of her clothes, and she put her arm across his chest, and within maybe 90 seconds his breathing had slowed and evened out, and he was asleep. She was not asleep. She lay there, in the strange dark of a room that was not hers, and she listened to his heartbeat, and she thought about the fact that somewhere in the city, right at that moment, a man was getting into a car to go kill somebody else, and that the not killing of her was going to cost a life that was not her life. And she thought about whether she could live with that, and she decided very slowly that she could, and that the ability to live with it was itself a thing she had lost tonight that she would not be getting back. She turned her face against his shoulder. She closed her eyes. Victor Rella did not die that day. He lived another 11 days after that. Lena and Adrian did not talk about where he was or what he was doing during those 11 days. They did not watch the news. They did not read the paper. They ate breakfast together, and Adrian drove her to the medical school, and Solomon picked her up and drove her home. And the apartment was always ready when she got there. And Adrian came to her every night at 6, and he cooked, and he listened, and he did not mention the list. On the 12th day, there was a small piece in the back of the metro section about the death of a man named Harold Keene in a home invasion in Short Hills, New Jersey. The piece did not mention Victor Rella. The piece did not mention Adrian DeLuca. The piece did not mention Lena Carter. Adrian read the piece at the kitchen counter. He folded the paper. He set it down. "It's over," he said. "The Keene thing." "Yes." "And Victor. Victor is not going to be a problem for you. Do I want to know what that means?" "No?" "Okay. He looked at her across the counter. Lena. Yes, I love you. It was the first time he had said it. She held his gaze. She did not smile. She did not cry. She had run out of both things. She just nodded once, and she said, I know. I love you too. Eat your eggs. They ate their eggs. She thought for a few weeks that it was over, that they had paid the price, and the price was now paid, and the rest of their lives could begin. She was wrong. She did not yet know how wrong. The thing that was going to come to her door had not yet gotten into its car. It was not going to get into its car for 23 more days. But for 23 days, she was happy. She would remember that later. The specific fact of those 23 days. She would remember them as the last time in her life that she had been completely, unguardedly happy. And she would understand, looking back, that happiness of that kind is almost always the thing that walks in just before the thing that takes it away. The 23 days were small things. That was what she would remember. Not the big things, the small ones. The morning he showed up at her apartment at 6:45 with 2 coffees and drove her to her OB rotation because it was raining and she had not wanted to walk to the subway, and the way he had sat in the car outside the hospital reading the paper until he saw her get inside through the glass doors before he pulled away. The afternoon she came back to his apartment and found him on the floor of the living room, sleeves rolled up, assembling a small bookshelf from a flat pack he had ordered because she had mentioned 3 weeks ago that she did not have enough room for her textbooks at her place, and that when she stayed with him, her books lived in a tote bag by the door. He had not mentioned buying the shelf. He had just bought it, and he had put it together badly, with one of the shelves upside down, and she had laughed at him, and he had looked up with an Allen wrench in his hand and said, I am a man of many talents, Lena, but IKEA is not one of them. And she had sat on the floor next to him and helped him disassemble the wrong shelf and put it together right. The night they had gone to Joe's, just the two of them, and the waitress had brought them 2 slices of cherry pie without being asked, and he had told her about the journalism teacher he'd had in the 10th grade, a woman named Mrs. Adario, who had written a letter of recommendation for his college applications before the applications stopped mattering, and who had died in a nursing home in Rhode Island 6 years ago, never knowing what had happened to him, and he had said, very quietly, that he still thought about writing her a letter sometimes. The first time he had said I love you in daylight, in the middle of a grocery store, between the paper towels and the laundry detergent, in exactly the tone of voice a person would use to say we're out of milk. The way he had started leaving a pair of his socks in the top drawer of her dresser, the way she had started leaving a toothbrush at his place, the way these things had happened without either of them remarking on them, the way 2 lives do, in fact, braid together, in the end, not through decisions but through accumulated habits of kindness. It was February now. The city was ugly in February. The snow was the color of wet cigarettes, and every curb was a small gray pond. And she was studying for another exam, and he was working, and they were living, and she was happy. And the price of that happiness did not come due until the 17th of February, which was a Monday, and which was the day somebody tried to kill her on the 116th Street platform. She was standing at the edge. She was not at the edge exactly. She was back from the edge by maybe 2 feet, which was a distance that she had calibrated in her head years ago as the right distance, far enough to not get pushed in, close enough not to hold up the person behind her. She had her headphones in. She was not listening to anything. She had them in because they were a social signal, a small flag that said, please do not speak to me. I am tired. And she had just come off a 16-hour shift, and she was thinking about nothing more ambitious than a shower and a bowl of cereal. She felt the push before she heard anything. It was a hand. Flat. Low on her back, below the shoulder blades. It was not a shove from somebody who had tripped. It was the hand of a person who had meant to do what the hand was doing, and for a fraction of a second her entire body understood the situation before her conscious mind had caught up, which was that she was about to be on the tracks, and the train was coming. She could feel the vibration of it through the concrete, and this was the moment where her life became a statistic in the morning paper. She did not fall. Her left foot caught the edge and she pitched forward, and the woman standing next to her, a stranger, a woman in a blue scarf, a woman whose name Lena would never learn, grabbed her elbow, hard, with both hands. The woman was small. She was not a strong woman, but she grabbed Lena's elbow and she yanked, and it was enough, barely, and Lena staggered backward and sat down hard on the concrete, and the train came into the station, and the woman in the blue scarf was shouting, "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? And a man's voice somewhere was yelling, "Stop him! Stop him!" And Lena was on the floor, and she was looking up at the ceiling of the station, the ugly tiled ceiling with the water stains on it, and she was thinking with a strange clarity that she had failed to die. She looked left. There was a man running. He was running toward the stairs at the south end of the platform. He was white, medium height, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low, and he was moving fast. A teenager in a yellow hoodie stuck out a foot, and the man stumbled but did not fall. And then he was at the stairs, and he was going up them two at a time, and he was gone. The woman in the blue scarf was kneeling next to Lena. Honey, are you okay? Honey, I'm okay. He pushed you. That man pushed you. I know. Oh my God, oh my God. Oh, honey. Lena was not crying. She was very calm. She understood in some clinical way that she was going into a kind of shock, and that the calmness was part of the shock, and that she was going to fall apart in about 45 minutes. But for the next 45 minutes, she was going to be able to function. She patted the woman in the blue scarf on the hand. Thank you, she said. You saved my life. Honey, what's your name? Denise? Denise? Oh God, honey, you're shaking. Denise. Thank you. Can you do me one more favor? Can you stay with me until I can make a phone call? Yes, of course. Lena called him. She did not call 911. That was a decision she made and that she would think about later and decide she did not regret making, because she understood, sitting on the concrete with a stranger's hand on her shoulder, that whatever was happening to her was not a thing that the 44th Precinct was going to be able to do anything about. She called him. He picked up on the first ring. Adrian? Lena. Somebody pushed me onto the tracks. She heard him stop breathing. Where are you? 116th and Broadway. I'm okay. A woman caught me. I didn't fall. I'm sitting on the platform. He ran. Don't move. Don't move. Solomon is 8 minutes from you. I'm 12. Don't get on a train. Don't go upstairs. Stay where you are. Stay where people can see you. And if anybody at all, even a cop, tries to take you somewhere, you scream, do you understand me? Yes. Say it back. I stay here. I don't move. I scream. Good. Adrian? Yes. It wasn't Victor. He paused. I know, he said, and he hung up. Solomon got to her in 7 minutes. He came down the stairs like a man who had not been taught how to run, but was doing it anyway. And he picked Lena up off the floor with absolute care. And he thanked Denise in the blue scarf so precisely and so formally that Denise started crying. And he walked Lena up the stairs and across to a black car waiting in a bus lane with its hazards on. And he put her in the back seat, and he did not say anything until they were 3 blocks away. Are you hurt? My hip. I landed on it. I'm going to take you to Mr. DeLuca's. A doctor will meet us there. Okay. She started shaking in the back seat. It was the 45-minute mark. Right on schedule. She could not stop her teeth from clacking. Solomon, without turning around, handed her his coat from the passenger seat. She put it on over her own coat. It smelled like cologne and peppermint gum. Solomon? Yes, Miss Carter. Who was it? I don't know yet. Will we know? Yes. She did not ask the next question. Adrian was waiting in the underground garage. He did not let her walk. He picked her up out of the back seat, and he carried her to the elevator. And she was not crying, and she was not struggling, and she put her face against his neck, and she closed her eyes, and she could feel his heart beating against her cheekbone. And it was fast, faster than she had ever felt it, and she understood that the calm she had been hearing in his voice on the phone had been entirely for her benefit. In the apartment, he set her down on the couch. A woman she had never seen was there, a small black woman with a doctor's bag. Ines, she realized. Not the watcher Ines, a different Ines, a Dr. Ines. Adrian had said once that he had a doctor. She had not understood until now what that actually meant. The doctor was maybe 50, gray at the temples, with warm, direct eyes. She introduced herself as Dr. Whitaker. She examined Lena's hip. She palpated it. She moved the leg through range of motion. Lena, the medical student, watched the examination with a kind of out-of-body interest, as though she were observing another student's OSCE. Deep bruise, Dr. Whitaker said. You're going to want to ice it tonight and sleep on the other side. Nothing broken. You were lucky. I wasn't lucky. A woman caught me. You were lucky the woman caught you. Yes. I'm going to give you something to help you sleep. You don't have to take it. It's a low dose. If you're going to fall apart tonight, you're going to fall apart better on 4 hours of sleep than on none. Up to you. I'll take it. Good girl. Dr. Whitaker packed up. She looked at Adrian on the way out. Adrian walked her to the door. They spoke in low voices in the hallway for maybe 90 seconds. Lena heard fragments, rest, fluids, not her knee. Then Dr. Whitaker left, and Adrian closed the door, and he came back and he sat down on the floor in front of the couch with his forehead pressed against her uninjured knee, and he did not move for a long time. Adrian. Yes. Who was it? I don't know yet. I will by morning. Why do you think it wasn't Victor? Because Victor is dead. Her mind caught up. Of course. Of course Victor was dead. Victor had been dead for, 31 days? 32? She had stopped counting. The Harold Keene story in the Metro section. Victor going to kill Keene. Victor, presumably, having not come back from Short Hills. Right, she said. Right, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking. Don't apologize. Whose hand was that? On my back. I will find out. Adrian. Yes. I don't want to hide. He lifted his head. He looked at her. What does that mean? He said carefully. I have been thinking about it since I was on the floor of the platform. I have been thinking about it for 7 minutes, and I have not changed my mind. I am not going to spend the rest of my life in your apartment with Solomon driving me to school in a car with tinted windows. I am not going to wait for whoever that was to come for me again. I am not going to let you kill somebody else for me in secret so that I can keep pretending I am not somebody who has had somebody killed for her. I am done with that. I am done with being protected in ways I do not get to see. Lena, let me finish. Okay, you told me once that you wanted it recorded in the collective memory of the people who matter, that I was a person you would put a hand on a man for. Fine. Record it again. Record it louder. Whoever this person is, whoever sent the hand on the platform, they sent it because they thought I was a weak spot, because they thought if they took me out, they took you out. I want to go somewhere public. I want to go somewhere public with you. I want us to walk in on each other's arms. I want every person in that room to see my face and see your face and see them in the same photograph, and I want them to understand that I am not a weak spot. I am a reason to stop. He was quiet for a long time. That is dangerous, he said. I know. That is very dangerous. I know. Lena, you almost died today. I know. That is why I am saying it tonight. I am saying it tonight because I do not want to have time to get scared enough to change my mind. He sat back on his heels. He looked at her for a long time. All right, he said finally. All right. There's a thing. On Friday. The Corbin Foundation hosts a spring benefit at the Metropolitan Club. It is a room full of the exact people who need to see what you are proposing they see. I have a standing invitation. I have not gone in 6 years. If I went with you, that would be a message. A message. Yes. Okay. Lena, you need to understand what you are volunteering for. If I do this, and we do this together, you are not going to be able to go back. You are going to be a public thing, in the specific small public of people who know who I am. That is permanent. Your face is going to be in certain photographs. Your name is going to be known in certain rooms. You're not going to be able to be a doctor in Scranton in 10 years who nobody has ever heard of. That is gone. You are choosing that to be gone. I know. Say it. I know, Adrian. I am choosing. I am choosing with my eyes open. I am choosing because the alternative is being pushed onto a set of tracks while wearing headphones, and I am not going to be that person. I am going to be the person in the photograph. He reached up. He put his hand against the side of her face. Okay, he said. Okay, Lena. Friday. Her hip hurt for 3 days. She iced it. She slept on her right side. Adrian did not let her go to school. She argued with him about it for about 40 minutes on Tuesday morning. And she lost, because she understood somewhere in the middle of the argument that he was not really telling her not to go to school. He was asking her to give him 3 days to put together the security she needed to walk into a ballroom on Friday and not be killed, and the 3 days of not going to school was the price of the Friday. She called the dean's office. She said she had a family emergency. The dean's office was understanding. She was a good student. She was, everyone agreed, the kind of student one accommodated. On Wednesday afternoon, a package arrived at the apartment. Adrian did not open it. He pointed at it. "For you." "What is it?" "A dress." "You bought me a dress." "I did not buy you a dress. A woman named Imani, who has dressed me for 11 years, selected a dress for you on my behalf, on the basis of a photograph. She asked me to tell you that she is sorry she did not have you in for a fitting, and that she has put aside 3 more for you for alterations when this is over. I am telling you this so that you understand the dress is not a gift. It is a costume. It is an item of work equipment for Friday. I did not want to buy you a dress. I knew that you did not want me to buy you a dress. This is the compromise. Imani will invoice you. You can pay her in installments. The invoice will be for exactly what the dress costs to produce, with no markup, and if you fight me on this, I will fight back." She looked at him. "Okay," she said. "Okay?" I said, "Okay, Adrian. You are not going to argue with me. I am too tired to argue with you about a dress. I will argue with you about something else next week. Let me see the dress." The dress was black. It was simple. It had long sleeves and a high neck and a long straight skirt, and it was not the dress of a girlfriend, she understood. It was the dress of a woman. It was the dress of a person who had been selected to stand in a particular room and look like somebody who belonged there. It fit her as though Imani had actually measured her, which, she realized with a small pang, was probably possible. She did not want to know how. She looked at herself in the mirror. "I look like a widow," she said. Adrian was leaning in the bathroom doorway. He considered this. "You look like a woman who would bury me," he said, "which is the look we want." She laughed. She did not mean to. It came out of her in a short, surprised burst, and she saw his face in the mirror behind her, and for a second he looked at her the way he had looked at her in the diner the first time she had laughed, and she thought, with a small bright pain, "We will survive this." Friday came. She ate. She ate deliberately, 2 eggs and toast at 7 a.m., and a sandwich at noon, and a small bowl of soup at 4 because she did not want to be hungry in the dress, and she did not want to be drunk on 1 glass of champagne. Adrian was gone most of the day. He came back at 5. He did not tell her where he had been. He was wearing a different suit from the one he usually wore, cut closer, and he had shaved very carefully. And when she came out of the bedroom in the dress, he looked at her for a long moment and said, "Oh, oh what? Oh, come on. Solomon is downstairs." The car that night was not the Mercedes. It was something lower, blacker, heavier, something armored, she understood, without him having to tell her. Solomon drove, there was another car in front of them and another car behind them. She did not ask who was in them. The Metropolitan Club glowed like a lantern on Fifth Avenue. They pulled up in the line. They waited their turn. When the door opened and she stepped out slowly, on Adrian's arm, and her hip twinged, and she did not let it show, and she lifted her chin the way her mother had taught her to lift her chin when she was 15 and had been made fun of by a girl at school, and she walked up the steps beside him as though she had been walking up steps like that her entire life. Photographers, not the kind outside movie premieres, the discreet kind, the ones who sold prints to glossy magazines 6 months later. They photographed Adrian. They photographed her. They photographed them together, her hand in the crook of his arm, and she did not smile, because the look Imani had put her in was not a look that smiled. Inside, the room was gold and white, and she recognized, within 10 seconds of entering it, maybe a dozen faces. Not because she knew them personally, because they had been in the ballroom of the Hotel Meridian 4 months earlier. A woman in silver, a former Secretary of State, and at a table near the bar, his tuxedo perfectly pressed, a glass of bourbon in his hand. Miles. Miles saw them. Miles saw them, and he went white, and he set down his bourbon very carefully, and he did not stand up. Adrian did not look at him. He did not need to. He walked Lena past Miles's table to the bar, and he ordered her a sparkling water with lime, and he ordered himself a soda because neither of them was going to drink tonight. And he turned her so her back was to Miles and his back was to the room, and he said softly, without moving his mouth much, "You did well." I haven't done anything yet. You walked into the room. You are in it. That is the whole operation. The rest is champagne. I'm scared, Adrian. I know. Don't leave my side. I'm not going to. He did not. They moved through the room. He introduced her. This is Lena Carter. He did not say my girlfriend. He did not say my partner. He did not have to. The way he said her name was enough. The hand at the small of her back was enough. She watched people's faces when they heard her name. She watched them register it. She watched them file it. She felt, for the first time in her life, the specific weight of being known, and she did not enjoy it. And she understood that it was going to be hers now, permanently. She shook hands with the Secretary of State, who was 81, and who held Lena's hand a little longer than she needed to, and who looked at her with bright, curious eyes and said, "My dear, are you the young woman at the Meridian in October?" "Yes, ma'am." Good for you." "Ma'am?" "Good for you, my dear. My regards to Mr. DeLuca." The Secretary of State moved away. "What did she mean by that?" Lena said quietly. "She meant she saw what happened with Miles," Adrian said. "And she doesn't like Miles's father. She was retiring from that cabinet when his father was coming in. They had a falling out on a judicial appointment. She holds grudges. She just told you, in the politest possible way, that she is going to be on your side for as long as it is convenient for her to be on your side, which is probably about 3 more years. That is useful. Remember her name. Evelyn Marsh. Buzz, good girl. It happened at 9:17. She would remember the time because she had looked at her watch 30 seconds before it happened. She had been thinking about how she wanted to sit down. Her hip was starting to ache. She and Adrian had moved to the edge of the ballroom near a set of tall windows, and she was leaning, very slightly, against the sill behind her. The first thing was the sound. It was not a gunshot. She thought it was, for a second, but it was not. It was a caterer's tray of glasses hitting the floor. She turned her head toward the sound. So did everybody in the room. So did Adrian. And in the one moment when Adrian's attention was not on her, a man in a waiter's jacket came up on her other side, very close, and put something against her ribs hard, and said very quietly into her ear, "Walk. Don't talk. Walk." The object in her ribs was a knife. She understood this instantly. She did not understand how she understood it, but she understood it, and something in her body that she had not known was in her body switched on, and it was not fear. It was something older and colder than fear. It was the thing she had been carrying since she was 23 years old and had watched her mother die in a bed, which was the refusal to be small. She did not walk. She turned. She turned into the knife, not away from it, which was not the thing anybody had taught her to do, but was the thing every medical student learns about the geometry of a blade, which is that the worst angle for the blade is the one the blade was not expecting. She turned, and she brought her right elbow up and out and across in a short, tight arc, and it caught the man under the chin, not hard, not the kind of blow that would drop a man, but hard enough to snap his head back and interrupt his grip. And his hand with the knife in it moved, and instead of going into her kidney, it went into the fabric at her waist, and she felt the blade go along her ribs and catch in the dress and stop. And she turned all the way now, and she grabbed his wrist with both hands, and she bit him. She bit him. She bit him on the wrist. She bit him hard enough to taste blood in her mouth, and he screamed a short, high yelp that she would remember later as the most satisfying sound she had ever heard. And then Adrian was there. Adrian was there, and he had his hand on the man's throat, the same way he had had his hand on Miles's throat. But this time his hand was not merely resting, and this time the other hand had something in it. And the man in the waiter's jacket made a small sound, a small surprised sound. And then he was on the floor, and there was a great deal of blood on the floor, and someone at a nearby table was screaming, and Adrian had his arm around Lena's waist and was pulling her backward, away from the window, toward a door she had not noticed at the far end of the room. "Are you cut?" "No, it stopped in the dress. I'm fine. I'm fine, Adrian. I'm fine. Like, are you sure?" "I'm sure." He got her out of the room. Solomon was already there, at the service door. 2 more men she did not know. They were moving fast. She could still hear, behind them, the screaming from the ballroom, and the distant, confused, authoritative voices of security people who had been at the wrong end of the room, and someone yelling for a doctor. And she thought, with a strange, savage clarity, "I am a doctor. I am almost a doctor, and I am not going back in there to help him. She would think about that later, that she had not gone back, that Adrian had moved her out and she had moved with him, and she had not looked back at the man on the floor, and that a version of her from 6 months ago would have, and that the version of her from now did not, and that the difference between those two versions was something she was going to have to live with for the rest of her life. The car was waiting. They got in. The car moved. She was breathing hard. Her hip was on fire. The front of her dress had a 6-inch cut in it along the ribs, very clean, and through the cut she could see her skin, which was not bleeding but was beginning to bruise, one long purple line from the flat of the knife sliding along the bone. The dress was ruined. She felt very sorry about the dress. That was, for some reason, the thing she was most sorry about in that moment. She was going to have to pay Amani for the dress. Adrian. Yes. Who was that? I don't know yet. I will. You killed him. Probably. Yes. In front of 300 people. Yes. Adrian. Yes, Lena. That was the plan, wasn't it? He turned his head. He looked at her. No, he said. No, Lena, that was not the plan. The plan was that they would see you on my arm, and they would understand, and they would go home, and there would be phone calls in the next 2 weeks, and the phone calls would be the thing. What just happened was not the plan. What just happened was that someone made a bet that I would not kill a man in a room full of witnesses, and that bet was wrong. And I want you to know that I understand I have just made your life more complicated in ways we are going to be unpacking for a very long time. I am sorry. I am sorry about the dress, and I am sorry about the blood, and I am sorry you had to bite a man. I am not sorry he is dead. I want to be clear about that. Okay? Are you okay? No, but I'm alive. That's different. Yes. Adrian. Yes. I'm not going back to the apartment tonight. He paused. Where do you want to go? I want to go to my apartment. I want to sleep in my own bed. I want to put my own sheets on my own face. I want one night in my own life before my life becomes whatever it is about to become. Please. He was quiet for a long moment. Okay, he said. You won't come in with me. I'll sit in the car all night. Adrian? You asked for one night in your own life. That's the whole offer. I'm not giving that up. I will sit in the car, Lena, and Solomon will be across the street, and I will sit in the car all night, and in the morning I will come up and knock on your door, and you will let me in or you won't, and that is up to you. Is that acceptable? Yes. He sat in the car all night. She knew because she got up twice and looked out the window, and the black car was at the curb, and the cabin light was on very low, and she could see the shape of him in the driver's seat, not moving. She slept badly. She slept for 3 hours, maybe 4, in stretches. She dreamed about her mother. She dreamed about her mother at the kitchen table in Scranton, in the old house on Elm, and her mother was not dying in the dream. Her mother was young. Her mother was 30 years old, and she was holding a baby, and the baby was Lena, and her mother was saying something to the baby that Lena could not hear. And Lena woke up at 5:30 in the morning with tears on her face and the taste of iron in her mouth and her hip hurting. And she lay very still for a while, and she thought about who she was now. The person she was now had killed somebody. Not with her hands. But she had chosen it, in a kitchen in the second week of January, when Adrian had told her that Victor Rella was not going to be a problem for her anymore. And she had said okay and eaten her eggs. And she had chosen it again last night, in a ballroom, when a man in a waiter's jacket had put a knife to her ribs and she had turned into it. And now she was going to keep choosing it for the rest of her life, because she was going to stay with Adrian DeLuca, and there was not going to be a version of that life in which she got to be innocent about it. She understood, lying in the gray light of her bedroom with the smell of the radiator and the sound of Amsterdam Avenue outside, that there was a certain kind of story people told themselves about love, the kind where love redeemed a bad man, the kind where a woman's goodness was powerful enough to turn a wolf into a dog. She understood, at 5:30 in the morning on the first Saturday of the rest of her life, that that story was a lie. She was not going to redeem Adrian DeLuca. She did not want to. He was what he was. The thing that had happened between them was not that she had changed him. The thing that had happened was that she had found a person whose darkness she could see clearly, whose darkness she could name, whose darkness she could meet without flinching, and who, in return, had not asked her to pretend she did not see it. That was not redemption. That was something harder. That was a kind of recognition, the kind two people can sometimes give each other when they have looked at each other in a bad light and decided not to look away. She thought about what she wanted to do with the rest of her life. She thought about the clinic, the woman with the plum-sized mass in her breast, the attending who had not listened. She thought about the 3 doctors in her mother's 18 months at Lehigh Valley who had spoken to her mother like she was a person. She thought about how small that number was. She thought about how many people in the world were trying to be one of those 3. She was going to finish medical school. She was going to finish it, and she was going to do a residency in emergency medicine, and she was going to stand in a trauma bay in the middle of the night, someday, with a gunshot wound on the table in front of her, and she was going to do her job, and she was going to be a person her mother would have recognized as good. And at the end of her shift, she was going to come home to a man who was not good in the way she was good, and she was going to take her coat off at his door, and she was going to let him pour her a glass of wine, and she was going to sleep in his bed, and she was going to not be ashamed of any of it. She got up, she showered, she dressed, she made coffee, she made 2 cups. She took 1 cup to the window and she knocked, lightly, on the glass so he would look up. He looked up. She held up the cup. He got out of the car. He came up the 4 flights. She opened the door before he knocked. Hi. Hi. I made coffee. I smell it. Come in. He came in. She closed the door. She handed him the cup. He took it. His hand was cold, cold from the night in the car, and she took his other hand in both of hers, and she held it until it was warm, and then she let go. Adrian? Yes. I want to talk to you about the next 10 years. He sat down at the kitchen table. She sat down across from him. The sun was coming up. The kitchen was small and yellow with it, the cheap linoleum and the old cabinets and the toaster with the frayed cord, and she did not feel embarrassed by any of it. She had stopped being embarrassed by it a while ago. She was not sure when. I'm going to finish school, she said. I'm going to do residency. I'm going to be a doctor. That is going to take me 6 more years. During those 6 years, I am going to live part of the time here and part of the time with you. And on the nights when I am on call, I am going to sleep at the hospital, and you are going to have to be all right with that. All right. I am not going to marry you. Not for a while. Maybe not ever. I am not ruling it out. I am saying it is not on the table. I am too tired to be somebody's wife right now, and I have decided that I am not going to do something I am too tired to do. All right. You are going to keep doing what you do. I am not asking you to stop. I am not asking you to pretend. You are going to tell me what you do, not everything. I understand there are things I cannot know. But when something matters, you are going to tell me, and we are going to decide together, and you are not going to decide and then inform me. Do you agree to that? Yes. If you ever again move money around my family, or pay for my school, or send a man to my stoop with an envelope, I'm going to leave you. I'm telling you that now so that there is no ambiguity. I'm telling you because I love you, and because I know how you are, and because the kindness has to have a shape, or it will eat the thing it is trying to feed. Yes, Lena. And one more thing. Yes, when I'm a doctor, I'm going to treat people. All kinds of people. Some of them are going to be people who work for you. Some of them are going to be people who work against you. I am not going to tell you who they are. I'm not going to let you use my license to manage your business. If I ever find out you have used me to get information about somebody I have treated, we are done. I will walk out, and you will never see me again. This is not negotiable. Do you understand? He looked at her for a long moment. I understand, he said. Good. Lena. Yes. Can I say something? Yes. I was going to propose, he said. Tonight, at the benefit. I had the ring in my pocket. I'm telling you because I'm not going to lie to you, and because I am not going to pretend it did not happen. I'm telling you that I understand why you just said what you said, and I agree with you, and I am going to give the ring to Solomon to return to the man I bought it from, and I am going to wait. I am going to wait for as long as you want me to wait, and if the day comes when you want it, you will tell me, and on that day I will ask you, and you will say whatever you are going to say. Until then, the ring is not a thing between us. She looked at him. She had not cried all night. She had cried plenty on other nights. She had not cried on this one. And she found Sitting at her kitchen table in the yellow morning light with her coffee cooling in her hand and a cut on her ribs, and the man she loved across the table from her holding a cup she had poured him, that she still was not going to cry. She was all cried out. She thought, going to be all cried out for a while. That was okay. There would be time for the rest of it. There was going to be a lot of time. Okay, she said. Okay. Okay, Adrian, return the ring. Drink your coffee. I'm going to make us eggs. She made them eggs. She made them badly. She broke the yolks. She burnt the edges. He ate them anyway. They sat at her small bad table and they ate burnt eggs in the morning light, and the radiator ticked, and someone in the apartment above them ran the shower, and the world had not ended and was not going to, at least not today. A year later, on a Tuesday in March, Lena Carter would stand in a white coat in a fluorescent room on the 4th floor of Metropolitan Hospital, and she would put her hand on the hand of a woman she had never met before, and the woman would be dying, and Lena would say, "I am here. I am not going anywhere. Tell me about your daughter." And the woman would tell her, and Lena would listen. 2 years after that, Lena would match into an emergency medicine residency at a hospital in the South Bronx, a place her attending told her was not the prestigious choice. She would take it anyway. She would be a first-year resident, and then a second year, and then a third, and she would be good at it, and she would be tired, and she would be alive. Adrian would be there, not at the hospital. Never at the hospital, but at the apartment, at the end of her shifts, at 2 in the morning and 4 in the morning and noon when she came home from a 30-hour call. He would cook for her. He would listen to her. He would not ask her about her patients. He would hold her while she slept. Solomon would retire in the 5th year. There would be other Solomons, and eventually fewer, and eventually, by the time Lena was 31, the men in the black cars would be mostly gone, and Adrian would spend most of his time on the roof of his building with a pair of pruning shears and a row of tomato plants in redwood boxes, because he had decided somewhere around year 3 that he was going to learn how to grow tomatoes, and he was going to be bad at it, and he was going to do it anyway. They would not marry in that time. They would not have children. She would not change her name. She would not move her books out of her apartment on 112th, although she would be in the apartment less and less, and at the end of the 5th year she would let it go, and she would keep the key on her ring anyway, as a kind of souvenir of a person she had been. On a Thursday evening in September, 6 years after the night at the Metropolitan Club, she would come home to the apartment on the 34th floor, and she would find Adrian on the roof, in a sweatshirt and jeans with dirt on his hands, and he would be holding a single misshapen tomato, and he would hold it out to her with a face so uncomplicatedly proud that she would laugh out loud, and he would say, "It's ugly, but it's mine," and she would say, "So am I," and she would kiss him, and she would eat half the tomato right there with the salt from a small shaker he kept on the potting bench, and she would understand, standing on the roof of a building 34 floors above a city that had tried several times to kill her, that there was no lesson in any of it, no moral, no clean message she could hand to her younger self, because life did not work that way. The truth, she thought, was smaller and harder. The truth was that love did not save anybody from being who they were. The truth was that the best a person could hope for was to find somebody whose flaws did not destroy them, and to be for that person the same kind of somebody. The truth was that you did not fix a bad man by loving him. You did not become a better woman by being loved by a hard one. You just chose each other. You chose each other every morning. And some mornings the choice was easy, and some mornings it was hard, and some mornings, she would admit if she were being honest, the choice was a thing she was not entirely sure she would make if she had to make it for the first time instead of the 1,000th. But she made it. She kept making it. He kept making it. And that in the end was what the life was. Not redemption, not rescue, not a story somebody could make into a movie without cheating. Just 2 imperfect people on a rooftop with a tomato and the sound of the city going by underneath, and the understanding shared between them that they had gotten extremely lucky in the one specific way a person can get lucky, which was that they had found each other, and they had not wasted it. That was the end of it. That was, she thought, enough.